Hey, it's the Bennington Show. Thanks to Chris Stanley for playing the Halloween song. I'm Ron Bennington. There's Gail Bennington.
Yo.
And I am Ron Bennington. And that's Gail Bennington. You probably don't recognize us in our Halloween garb. I'm dressed as an adult who just wants this day to be over. Chris?
Yeah.
Is that going to be the only Warren Zevon song that you happen to know?
It's your only one you like, right?
I like to get Warren Zevon on as much as I possibly can.
But you only do it once a year. You can play him constantly. There's a lot of great music there.
But is that not a great song?
Oh, where was London? Yep. That's my favorite part of the whole song. Just like, maybe we need something there. Can you do just like a little yip?
Just like a high-pitched yip.
All right, we got it, Warren. We're pressing the record now as we speak.
It's fast.
Yeah. There'll be another failed single for you. Everybody loves Warren Zevon, and you're like, how many great songs can you name? Where Was London? It's good.
Mm-hmm. Like that one.
All right, it's the Bennington Show coming up in just a little bit, very, very shortly. Alex Gibney, the documentarian, is going to be here. Blair Foster and Alex Gibney will be here. Rolling Stone, Stories from the Edge, Part 1 premieres Monday, November 6th, and Part 2 premieres Tuesday, November 7th, 9 p.m. Rolling Stone magazine, it's their story. When I was a kid, that was like a dream. Like, hey, maybe I'll write for Rolling Stone. They seem like they do a lot of drugs and meet all the rock bands. Do you remember the film Almost Famous? It's like that.
It's like that, but realer.
This is Ben Fong Torres.
Hello, Ben Fong Torres.
Whoa, I know what my lady wants me to.
I better jump to it.
What?
Didn't Ben Fong Torres complain that he's like one of the few people who doesn't get his name changed? Like they never say Jan Winter, but he's still Ben Fong Torres.
Yeah, they say Jan Winter, I believe.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, because remember he has that scene. Isn't Jan sitting at a table with him?
He's grabbing a cab.
No, that's the real, but they had a fake Jan Winter in there.
Now I don't remember. Maybe he does have a meeting with him.
And that, by the way, that movie and then John Travolta did a Rolling Stone actor part. And it always makes them look like the biggest pricks that just go and change your story.
Yeah.
And I think Rolling Stone backed both those movies in some way.
Yeah, and I think also, but they did say like, hey, and by the way, like we always took our journalist side. We wouldn't just be like, this band is right. You're a liar.
Apparently not according to your journalist. But it's, it's a lot of great stuff. It's Hunter Thompson. What's not to enjoy,
Yeah, it's
even
so
if you
great.
just get a little bit of Hunter Thompson, it's great. I don't know why they just didn't get Johnny Depp in there when I was writing for Rolling Stone. Let's see what else is going on today. Oh, well, no, tomorrow Bonnie McFarlane's going to be here.
Yes.
I keep mixing that up with today. I don't know why.
She will be here tomorrow, though.
Something really crazy about me right now, and I believe I'm falling apart.
You don't think it's something spooky, do you?
By the way, everyone's already layered. You look around, all of us are layered up.
I wore a scarf today.
Yeah. Chris has got his hoodie scene going.
It's a great scene.
And so does Vito. Mm-hmm. You two shop together, or what happens?
No. I have my own specific look, and he rips me off.
It's the same look.
And
it's the same look.
He's taking it on himself for some reason.
They're both wearing hoodies with hats underneath the hoodie.
It's a good look, and I don't appreciate people ripping me off.
Vito's starting to seem more and more burnt out. He seems way older than he is.
Yeah, are you aging rapidly? Are you Jack?
I'm starting to call you Ben No Fun Tourist.
I think I just have an old look. I just look older than I am. I get called 40. Parents think I'm 40 when I work fucking birthday parties and ask me how my kids are.
Sorry. I didn't know your life was that hard. His life is very, very difficult.
So where do you take your children, sir?
Your grandchildren, are they here?
I'm in my mid-20s. Goo! Ugh.
Go is the only response for anything that freaks you out. You! Tonight is the World Series. And let me tell you something, Astros. If you don't win 6, you won't win 7.
Learned that from the Yankees.
I learned that from it's a cliche that you can always sound like you know baseball a little bit. You don't win 6, you're not going to win 7.
Hopefully the balls will be juiced, as all the pictures are saying for this game.
What does this mean?
The balls, we have set this year a record for home runs in a World Series. It's 110 years old or whatever. And we're only at game 5. In 5 games, we've hit more home runs than any 7 games.
Oh, so it seems suspicious to people.
The balls are super balls that they're using right now. All you got to do is tap it and it's out. They say it's too slick for anyone to throw a slider, and the stitching makes the ball jump out of the park easier.
This is a new ball that they're playing with? I
think it's this year's ball. And there was more home runs. I think there was 700 more home runs this year than any time in history. Yeah,
yeah, there was a lot of home runs.
And then Major League Baseball said, "I don't think so." Here's the problem, and I'm going to tell you this as a guy who's been watching baseball his whole life. Baseball players were never in this kind of shape before. When you were a baseball player, back when the big red machine and all that, Johnny Bench did not lift weights. They said you had to stay loose. You did not want to be firm.
Right.
There was a lot of thin guys, but they were soft thin. Now every rookie looks like the fucking Terminator.
They're fucking cut, man.
Chris is right. They're fucking cut, man. Can we pull that? It'll just be, we'll put it on a Major League Baseball poster. Vito, you got the poster ready to send out?
Where's that Mike Trout poster?
Yeah.
Is he still playing? It seems like he should be retiring by now. I can't hear about anybody for too long, and I'm just like, I'm done with that guy. Same in any sport. Every time I hear the name LeBron, I just throw up a little bit. Nothing that he's done. Just that I need constant new. You know what I mean? I'm a social media guy.
Or is it LeVon Ball kid? They talk about him a lot. He's in the
I have I finally have a personal Twitter page, but really? I've decided the only thing I'm going to do is bots. Nothing but bots. Just robots follow me. Nothing else.
Do bots retweet and like things?
Yes.
Oh wow,
they do. That's how come so much of my shit gets retweeted.
They retweet, but they also feel. They're evolving.
Yeah, they are evolving. There's nothing we can do about it. You've given this over to the robots. It's the rise of the machines. The rest of us, well, we'll scrape in the dirt like rats, won't we?
Saudi Arabia just gave citizenship to a robot.
They don't even do that for women.
No, the robot actually has more rights than women because the robot doesn't have to cover her head. The robot doesn't have to be covered head to toe.
I don't mind covering the head, but they should cover it with a bucket. They should just be forced to go out as bucket heads. And then you can just write whore on the front of it and say, this is what we think of women. You are whores or Madonnas. And remember, we kill Madonnas. We're Muslims. Beep. Ow, where was London? This documentary covers every major event, I believe, since 1969. Everything is covered.
It's very detailed too. Really gets to delve in deep on specific stories.
Yeah, it goes big. It goes deep. What are you gonna do? Woodstock, Manson, Watergate, Vietnam, Iran Contra. Had a lot of shit happening. You got to admit that, ladies and gentlemen. America has kept you entertained over the past, 50 years of Rolling Stone?
Yes.
50.
Jan Winter looks like he's ready to, hey, I'm going to do my own funeral right now, everybody. Here's all my stuff is ready for you.
I've given you so much.
He gave a guy full access to write a book about him, right? 4 years the guy follows him around, writes down everything. Jan reads the book, goes, fuck you. I'm not helping you promote this piece of shit.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't want any part of it.
Wow.
He goes, I want you to focus on the other stuff, not the shit you focused on. All right, we got them here?
Yes, we do. Blair Foster and Alex Gibney. Rolling Stone, Stories from the Edge, Part 1 premieres Monday, November 6th, 9 p.m. on HBO. Part 2 premieres Tuesday, November 7th at 9 p.m.
Blair Foster and Alex Gibney are in studio with us. Rolling Stone, Stories from the Edge, Part 1 premieres Monday, November 6th at 9 p.m. on HBO, and Part 2 premieres on Tuesday, November 7th at 9 p.m. Thanks so much.
Good to see you guys.
Hey, good to be here.
Not too big of a project for you guys to take on. It's kind of the
It's a
second.
teensy-weensy little
Just
thing.
50 years.
Yeah.
Just 50 years of anything that mattered
In
at
America.
all.
Yeah, that's right.
What did you, were both you guys longtime Rolling Stone readers as well? Yeah.
Yes.
Me
Long
too.
time.
I grew up that way. But what surprised you as you started to dive into this?
For me, it was we went back and started reading the magazine from volume 1 and tried to read as much as we could. And from the very start, it was very much about music, but it was also about popular culture, politics, everything right from the start. And that surprised me. I thought that kind of came later, but it's right there from the very beginning.
Right from the very beginning, because to that entire generation, politics was as important as rock and roll. I
And
guess.
and the music, it was all part of the same thing, and that was baked in from the get go with Rolling Stone. I think the other thing that impressed me, I don't know if it was a surprise, but you kind of think of the song, the cover of Rolling Stone, and all that, like a promotional magazine for music. I mean, if you read the writing, and we really featured the writers in this 2-part doc. The writing is just fantastic. It's really good, both the music writing and also the investigative reporting and the kind of gonzo first person writing, established by Hunter Thompson and then now practiced in the present by Matt Taibbi and others. It's fun to read, but it's also very honest. You're following the journey of these writers who have kind of skills of both journalists and novelists all at the same time in a way that's pretty good.
Now, the thing is, Jan, of course, genius for doing this, but then you're like, well, what an obvious idea. Like, you just think to yourself, if you were sitting around in the late 60s, this would have been the most obvious idea anybody could have done, and yet he was out there by himself doing this.
There were other rock magazines, Cream was one. What was the other one? A couple of other ones.
Crawdaddy.
A few others. But I think what was interesting was the big magazines, and this started pretty small. I mean, their first employee was getting $25 a week. But the big magazines didn't regard rock and roll music as ushering in any kind of real change. That was something you had to be part of the counterculture in order to get that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting that you guys touched on the fact that Jan Winter had to have the idea that this wasn't just for a small group of people. Like, Cream maybe played to people who were already interested in rock music, but that he would have the idea, this generation, this pop culture, this music is going to be significant.
That's right.
Well,
They took rock music seriously, but not too seriously in the way that some of those magazines did, and really captured, I think, the widest audience possible, which was his genius.
But also go to think, do you know who was the editor of Crawdaddy? Or, you know what I mean? Like,
No.
Jan Wenner was a force himself. His editorial eye is what ended up. And for me, I would read that magazine to know, okay, here's the albums I should be looking for to. But I remember reading Tom Wolfe first in Rolling Stone as a kid, and then going to look for other stuff. I think I read Mailer the first time in that magazine, and then went back to look for books. So if you were a young person, and when you're young, you're always wondering what people who are like 5 to 10 years older of you are into. That was the way to get exposed not only to music, but certainly the greatest writers of that generation.
That's right. And it was a kind of countercultural look at news events, because so much of the official journalism of the time was very much kind of stenography. It was like you show up at the press conference, you put your microphone out, and you say, President so-and-so or Congressman so-and-so said this. It never just seemed to get inside the story, and particularly to penetrate the culture. And that's what Rolling Stone was so great at.
Jan was also, he was a good businessman. There's a line in the film, Hunter Thompson is asked, could you write like this for anybody else? And he said, well, I could, but they don't pay me.
Right.
You know, he was savvy and he was paying these writers and he knew talent when he saw it and he knew how to nurture and cultivate talent.
Hunter would probably say it didn't pay him enough.
Right. But
Right.
could you imagine Hunter becoming famous or well known without Rolling Stone? I mean, I can't think of another place that would have happened.
Rolling Stone made Hunter.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he was the author of Hell's Angels, but that wasn't a huge success.
Agreed.
You know, it was the writing, the Fear and Loathing writing that he did for Rolling Stone that put him on the map and also helped put Rolling Stone on the map.
Yeah. And that stuff was just so readable. Just incredibly, like, you're reading that stuff and you're like, this is
Gonzo.
Yeah, this is
and it was very funny.
Yeah.
Very, very funny. And yet also, you know, good reporting. One of the stories we tell in the film is a famous incident where Hunter kind of combined journalist and novelist all in one person. And when he was covering the 72 campaign, he had it in for this senator from Maine named Edmund Muskie. And Muskie had a kind of a stolid, granite jaw. He sort of looked like he was stoned all the time. So Hunter started a rumor that this guy was on some Congolese hallucinogen called ibogaine. And he made up this whole wild story about Muskie's addicted to ibogaine. You can see the signs everywhere. He's seeing lizards and so forth and so on. It's a novelistic passage. It's clearly not real, but it's hilariously funny. And weirdly, it does a better job of describing Ed Muskie and why he wasn't successful than a straight reportage would have done.
One of my favorite parts of the whole documentary is how they ended up becoming disappointed in a lot of the people that they backed for president. You know what I mean? There's always this letdown when your side wins. Like, sometimes it's easier for you as a person to have the other side win, because then you can keep fighting the good fight. But when your guy gets in, you're just like, oh, Jesus, you know? So
well, then
rough.
you have to look inward. You mean like when Clinton got in?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was fascinating. And I'd never heard Clinton go off like the stuff that you have in it.
Yeah, no one's heard that before. It's pretty shocking to hear a president get so angry at a journalist and to think that it's Clinton,
right?
Given our current situation.
Yeah, and it wasn't about Monica. I mean, he just asked him a pretty simple question, like, you know, what was the question? What could you imagine dying for?
Yeah.
And then Clinton just exploded on him, like he was supposed to be a cheerleader. Because he was the good guy, right?
Right.
Well, he was asking a tough question. That's what journalists are supposed to do. And Clinton just went off.
He went off. It was amazing, amazing to hear. But, you know, these guys, and particularly Jan, were in the middle of every major event of the past 50 years. How did he ride that out, you think? Was he able to put that hat on and stay comfortable with it?
One of the writers has written for a lot of different publications. He said the difference between these other publications and Rolling Stone is Jan, who needs to be right at the fingertips of what he wants to be, what's happening now. He's not going to take the bird's eye view. He's not going to sit back. He somehow has this instinct for what people want to read, and he's kept it for 50 years. I'm not even quite sure, but he still, I think, has that. He needs to be right on the edge, hence the title, Stories from the Edge. He wants to be right there.
And so many of the subjects had a love-hate with Jan Wenner, no matter who they were. And that's got to be so difficult when you kind of grew up loving that music. You love those bands. And at some point, it just comes back at you with the full force.
We're talking with Blair Foster and Alex Gibney. Rolling Stone Stories from the Edge Part 1 premieres Monday, November 6th at 9 p.m. on HBO, and Part 2 premieres Tuesday, November 7th at 9 p.m.
And it really was sex, drugs, and rock and roll throughout, at least most of it. Most of the time, Rolling Stone was together. I was surprised and enjoyed so much of the Annie Leibovitz part of that. But the fact that she was involved with so many bands, it wasn't just showing up as the photographer. She was also kind of friends
Yeah.
with everybody.
Yeah. Well, that was the time.
Yeah.
And, and it wasn't, you weren't supposed to have distance. In fact, the less distance, the better.
Right.
So,
I think there's a reason she and Hunter Thompson got along so well, because she sort of practiced her own sort of gonzo photojournalism. She was right in there partying with the bands, and she was experiencing it. And she and Hunter, I think, were a good team. I think they understood how to approach
I loved the stuff with Annie because I'm so fascinated by her. And actually, that's kind of my kind of early relationship with Rolling Stone, was being so young and not being able to read it, but being able to look at the pictures. And there was that great Rolling Stone book that was mostly Annie's photographs, all of the cover, and I would just study them. Like, her work is really fantastic.
It was so interesting early on to find out that one of the things that got her started really was that, she started taking all these photos of John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and they kind of let her in because she was a woman and there weren't many women photographers at the time. And also she was so young. They thought, whoa, this is kind of cool. Instead of getting the pro from Dover, they send this young woman in who just like to hang out. And that often that's part of the game, is not just taking the picture, but also just hanging out and letting it go. And they became so trusting that they let her in. And so did the Jefferson Airplane and some of these other bands. So she had this kind of sense of intimacy with them that really came off in the photographs. But credit to Jan, and she gives it to him for letting her do it, rather than hiring the pro.
Well, you guys know as well as anyone that you have to create that safe space, right?
Right.
And that's what she was able to do. And I don't know, some of these iconic photos that she took may have been days and days into that. You certainly aren't going to do that if you set up a 2 or 5 hour shoot. You know?
Right.
That's right.
Some of the writers in recent days, are so envious of the early days because they get, here's like the photo lineup. We've got 5 minutes with this celebrity, and, you don't get to go out on the road the way Cameron Crowe got to go out on the road for 3 weeks at a time. You get 5 hours if you're lucky with someone, and it's a photo shoot. And there's no space for that intimacy anymore.
And also, frankly, the on the other side of the camera or the typewriter, you're not given that access by people anymore.
Sure.
There are all these mediators in between, whether it's the press secretaries of the politicians or the managers and the agents for the musicians. Everything's so managed now. It doesn't have that kind of easy, free-flowing vibe that it did back in the day.
No, there was a great lack of professionalism to everything back then. You know what I mean?
No, it's so refreshing in that way. Yeah.
Fortunately for us.
Yeah. Well, because none of them saw this as a long-term deal, I think, in terms of the bands. Most of them, if you look out and see how many albums they put out a year, you would never have done that with the Doors now. You wouldn't be like, hey, you got to put out another album. You would think, how can we make this thing last for 20 years?
Right.
But at that time, they were just like, we're going to do this for a couple of years, and then I don't know what's going to happen.
We'll be dead by 30.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it was like if you were, just surfing on the beach now, you wouldn't think, where is this going? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just something that you're doing. It's an extraordinary look at that generation that kind of changed everything too. But at a certain point, and I think in part 2, the documentary gets more political because it's almost like that generation gave up their obsession with music that they had in the 60s and 70s.
Well, the magazine moves from San Francisco to New York, and things change, and the country changes. And I think Rolling Stone helped change that too. They're a little bit of the architect of their own success and their own change, and they're writing the times like everybody else.
Also, the counterculture, or many people in the counterculture, began to be the man.
Right.
In other words, it's a different thing. It's hard to, pump your fist and shout revolution when you're the CEO and suddenly you're driving around in a limousine and maybe you still listen to the Dead, but now your fundamental values about how much you want to change the culture have shifted. And Rolling Stone inside the magazine, I think, felt those conflicts, and a lot of the writers, would rudder up against where they felt the magazine was going, feeling it was becoming too corporate, and they wanted to follow, some of the new movements, like that happened with punk, for example, and then later on with hip hop.
Right.
That Rolling Stone became so successful that it needed to be challenged even inside itself.
Yeah. And you have the original readers may not be ready for punk or hip hop.
Right.
But there's younger people coming in. So that became this churn all the time. Just the fact that culture is fighting himself. But what's always also interesting to me is how much of that early culture has just been accepted into the mainstream. Like at one point, you would have been weird if you were doing meditation or yoga or eating granola. And that stuff is at every mall and mini mall now.
I once talked to Pat Buchanan, who was, an advisor to Richard Nixon, who was of course pilloried by Hunter Thompson as the Dark Lord. And Pat Buchanan basically said, look, the counterculture won the culture wars. They didn't win the political wars, but they won the culture wars. The culture changed.
Right.
And we are a result of that culture today.
And it's everyone feels like change doesn't take place fast, but it is one lifetime where you see women's rights, gay rights,
right.
Stuff that is accepted. The fact that the Republicans would have something from Martin Luther King at their convention would have been madness. And when it was actually happening in '68,
right.
The Republicans were not calling him a great man, and now it's just generally accepted. Oh yeah, he was a great man who's done great things. Muhammad Ali, you could go. That list goes on and on. That just things do get accepted. Progress happens.
Yeah.
I also wonder too if the young people of the '60s are aware that even though things are different from their youth, how much of it still is not even catered towards them, but still familiar, where the generation gap between them and their parents seems so vast.
Right.
So vast. But I think we still kind of have the baby boomer culture very much a part
yes,
of present
it's true.
culture.
Well, I think it's youth culture,
Yeah.
if you think about it, because, prior to the late 50s, early 60s, the Victrola was controlled by the parents.
Right.
You didn't have transistor radios. You didn't have portable record players with 45s that you could take on your own. And you didn't have the car that you could drive around in and listen to the radio. All that meant freedom. And it was the music that spoke to that freedom. Before that, you were listening to what your parents wanted you to hear.
Most people didn't have free time until about the late 50s and early 60s.
right.
There just wasn't extra time. Now, everything is aimed towards what's going to entertain me. How can I spend the rest of my life entertained? But I do also think that something that has been lost is that we're not going to have that one central spot that we get. There won't be another Beatles because things are just so broken up and fractured now.
You see that if you look at the cover of the magazine, even just if you look in the last few years, you have a magazine that will have, Cardi B on the cover, who's on the cover this week. And then, John Lennon could be on the cover next week.
Right.
I mean, it's sort of it's really all out there now all over the place. And it's hard to focus on one thing.
There are certain people, and I don't know if it's just because it was Jan's personal feelings, but Neil Young never went away in Rolling Stone. You know what I mean? Like Neil Young is around as much today in Rolling Stone as he was in 1970. There's just certain people that seem like they were able to ride that, where other people, they had their 2, 3, 4 year run, and that was it.
Well, Dylan would be the key one.
Yeah.
Dylan is the key
Rolling
one.
Stones.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones,
and
Dylan,
the Beatles.
The Beatles.
Yeah.
The Beatles, and Jan admits to it, I think, that he still has been able to wrap his head around just that whole thing. I mean, he still is enthused as when he was young.
Yeah, he's still a fan.
Yeah. I think, of course, that musically, from the musical portion of that, it's the Annie Leibovitz picture of John Lennon, but just losing him still to this day. That seems like it's a peak of the large scar for that generation.
Well, that's the very tail end of part one, and you can still feel that loss, that shock of John Lennon being shot, outside his apartment. And, that phrase, the day the music died, I mean, It never seems so powerful as that. And it's haunting even now. So,
sure.
So when we talk about that, and Annie Leibovitz talks about the famous photo she took, which was really the last one taken of John Lennon, which was him curled up naked next to Yoko, fully clothed. And there was a big negotiation over that because obviously when John Lennon is shot, the first instinct as a publisher is to put a photo of Lennon on the cover. But John very much wanted the cover to be him and Yoko. And Annie said, I made this promise to him, and Jan backed her up. And that's what they put on the cover after he died, unadorned, without any other thing except the heading of Rolling Stone was that incredible picture of John and Yoko.
And it has the feeling that that's, if John would have known, it's almost like that's the picture he would have chosen.
Right.
And that picture still, to this day, is so powerful and so oddly ahead of its time even then, of him just giving the power over.
Yeah, how vulnerable he is to her, and she's in that incredible kind of power position.
Yeah, right.
It's insane to think that they had that kind of intimacy and access into his life right there at the end. It's crazy.
When we filmed Jan and Annie in the present day talking about it, it was so emotional for them.
Sure.
All these years later, Annie's on the verge of tears. So is Jan. It was very moving.
Rolling Stone Stories from the Edge Part 1 premieres Monday, November 6th at 9 p.m. on HBO, and Part 2 premieres on Tuesday, November 7th at 9 p.m.
Well, this is how many hours altogether that...
4.
Yeah, 4 hours altogether. It just moves. I watched it in one sitting. But is there still is there stories that you guys wished you would have had time for?
I'll say.
Yeah. I've done 40 hours.
Yeah.
There's a whole slew of stories. The magazine really very early on covers the environment in a way that's very ahead of its time. And we didn't really get to explore that. They did a story about the Exxon Valdez oil spill back in the late 80s. That was better than anything else we read in any other magazine. We had a great story. We had a great piece about Jay-Z. We talked to Touré about. They did a story about Karen Silkwood in the 1970s.
Yeah.
That was very groundbreaking journalism. The list goes on. This is a long list.
Well, like I said when we started this, it is about the last 50 years of our lifetime, and it's every major story that they were involved in. Thank you guys so much for dropping in here. Congratulations.
Our pleasure. Always great to be here.
And congratulations for just pulling this off. It had to feel enormous sometimes as you were doing this.
Yeah.
It was fun, though. Yeah. I mean, it was a blast.
Blair Foster and Alex Gibney. Rolling Stone Stories from the Edge Part 1 premieres Monday, November 6th at 9 p.m. on HBO. Part 2 premieres on Tuesday, November 7th at 9 p.m.
Isn't it funny how many times we end up talking about that picture?
I know. It's... it was years that only just a couple years ago I realized that was the last photo. I had no idea. I think it was actually the documentary on Annie Leibovitz, where she was discussing that, and I had no idea that this was not only his last photograph, but was coming from that shoot, right? Didn't it just?
I think he went to from that shoot to the studio to
but it had been within the same day, right?
I think it was that day or maybe the day before. I'm not 100% sure. I would love to have Annie Leibovitz do the show. A lot of times photographers think, if I do radio, what's the point? How are they going to see?
Let me just describe
I've had
this photo.
photographers on, and we've he goes, well, you can't see it, you folks at home, but look at this picture of Keith Richards. I've always been a giant photographer fan, and it's funny. We were talking about this not too long ago. There's less and less iconic pictures.
Well, it's cool because she had such a signature style then, but then she has a new signature style. Like her style evolved, and now it's all kind of hazy and surreal and kind of landscape, and then that person usually in some big gown within the landscape. And
she's with Vanity Fair now, or somebody like that.
Yeah, Vanity Fair.
That kind of, you also play to that magazine. You know what I mean? What makes it in that magazine. I was walking down Fifth Avenue, and this goes to show you how much the world has changed. And she's shooting something. I think it was an ad, and there's this. They're kind of in the street with the city as the background, And I'm like, fuck, that's Annie Leibovitz. And there was kids kind of on the outside of the shoot, like they were holding up big posters to block it because people were standing there with their phones taking the pictures of what she was going to put in another month or two. And you're just like, how can anything be yours now?
Exactly.
Chris, when we do the Thanksgiving show,
Yes.
I don't want to see one fucking phone up. You know why?
Why is that?
I want people to be in the moment.
Understood. Be regulating out there.
I don't know if you're going to be regulate anything. I don't think you have that power. I'm doubting right now whether you have the power to regulate.
I'm going to be regulating.
Regulators, mount up. In the middle of a bath. Who was giving a shit about Yoko not too long ago?
Oh, that was Natasha Leggero. Yeah. She was giving Yoko a hard time. And she's like, no, seriously, though, she kind of sucks, right? And we're like, no she does
she's
not.
Great.
She's like, but she can't sing.
Well, who can sing? You know what I mean? Who's really a good singer? The amount of actual good singers. Matter of fact, good singers normally bore me because they don't even have their own thing going. They're a trained voice. I don't want to fucking see that any more than I want to have a trained child come in here and start talking. I want a maniac kid that's going to come running around, fucking put something on his head and get it stuck there. That's the kind of kids that make me laugh.
Plus, did you hear her voice in Bungalow Bill? Come on.
Hey, Bungalow Bill.
What did you kill?
Fucking Paul.
Bungalow Bill.
Oh, shit.
I love that moment. She's like, oh, yes, he looks so fierce. It's she's like a little baby.
Yeah,
like, where does that voice come from?
I don't know. She's like a bold baby. The babies could be so bold.
The coolest baby there is.
Dude, did you guys ever see that thing on the iBang with the little kid in the cockpit? That has fucked me up for days now.
Oh, this is a kid who knows everything about
everything.
Flight. He's talking to a pilot, and he seems like he knows more than the pilot. It's really strange.
The pilot is so weirded out by this. I don't understand how that happens. I mean, I guess that's what they call on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But that makes me feel like the spectrum is a good thing.
Sometimes I think it is. Sometimes I think our geniuses tend to be on the spectrum in some way or another.
They say that every genius has had some connection to autism. Isn't that weird? Like, to me, it's almost like, it seems like it could be some kind of evolution.
Einstein must have been autistic. Right?
Yes, because Einstein was a dude that had to wear the same shirt and pants every day. They had to go out and get him the same style of pants because he couldn't think of what he would wear.
Just too much to handle that. He's like, I'm busy. My brain is busy with everything else.
I'm busy somewhere deep, deep, deep into the entire fucking inner workings of the universe to figure out whether I put on socks or not. Da Vinci, same thing.
Yeah, it would have to be. Your brain cannot operate like the rest of us.
No.
Plus, I don't know if this is rumor, but I remember hearing when I was a kid that Einstein was kicked out of school because they were like, he's special needs. Well, although they didn't call it that.
Yeah, they thought it was something weird. But you know why? Is because they're sitting there, they're scratching on a board, and he's staring into the universe. They said he was just be staring off. They're like, there's something wrong with that boy Einstein. He ain't going nowhere. I think he was raised down south. I think that's what it does. There's something wrong about Albert Einstein. That kid's funny, and he's never used a conditioner. His hair's all over the place like baby snakes. Albert, what are you thinking about now instead of doing your gazintas? Now, how many times are 3's gazenta 12s? That's 4, boy. 4. Sometimes I think I gotta take a ruler to your finger bones. Albert was just like, but I want to do something else. I want to dance. Yeah, like most people who have done something extraordinary in their life have, when they were in 3rd grade, their parents were called in, and they were just like, your child is fucked up. There's something fucked up about your baby. he don't fit in with the others. It doesn't matter who it is. They just think there's something wrong with this kid. Fucking poor Sid Barrett had to put up with it and finally drove him mad. Mad, I tell you. I say, shine on, you crazy diamond. There's something fucked up in your baby's head. I don't want to say that anyone who works with kids is fucking nuts, but they don't understand that they're fucking kids at any point.
Just children.
I'm worried this Albert Einstein is going to be the next Children of the Cone. Just standing out there like a fucking crow. Talking crazy shit. I forgot to tell you. Well, I'm not going to tell this story. I'm doing a little crowd work the other night, and I say to a guy, "What do you do for a living?" And he goes, "Intelligence."
What?
Yeah. Later,
What?
he told me what he did for a living. Interrogation. But he goes, "I'm supposed to say IT when someone asks me what I do." And he goes, "I'm just so fucking drunk and I'm listening to your show every day and I just fucking felt like I was just talking to you." It's the best fucking story
Oh
you've
my
ever heard.
God.
Great.
I'm not going to say where he's from or what his name is. He goes, no. I go against...
I've just always had a feeling.
No, it wasn't Go Pack Joe.
God damn.
It would be great if it was.
I feel
No,
like
we haven't seen him in a long time.
I've always been
Did he come
sort
to
of
Thanksgiving?
suspicious.
I believe yes. He's on the list.
I believe, yes, he's on the list.
I just cut myself off. Said yes, he's on the list.
Did you really?
Yes. That's how it sounded inside my head. I'm not sure if it sounded when it came out.
What?
If this Thanksgiving show works as good as our dreams, it's going to be the best night ever.
It's gonna be awesome.
Or is it a dream or a nightmare? That's what I asked of you.
Dream.
Chris, there's nothing that you've guaranteed that ever comes through, so I'd rather
I
you
know.
went the other way.
Okay.
I'd rather you said this is going to be a fucking wreck.
It's gonna be a fucking dumpster fire.
Yes.
I don't even feel right saying that, but I will.
Mrs. Stanley, we're here to talk about your boy, Christopher. We think he's as mad as a hoot owl.
Can we just call this out?
Yeah.
That son of a bitch hasn't taken his fist off his balls since the day school started. Let's just say he's got a special friend between his legs. The other kids just shoot spitballs at him and call him Tubsy Wubsy. We understand that he's got a little thing for Costa Rican punani. We can't stop him. You were saying that you stayed over at your lady friend's last night.
Yes. And there's a gentleman that's been outside this building selling like street art for years. And he talks to himself.
I know that guy.
The skinny guy with the beard.
Well, first of all, he doesn't talk to himself. He sees other people.
Yeah.
I've seen him in arguments. I've seen him in a meeting all by himself out there, calling on people.
All day long, 12 hours a day.
I see him walk along with an imaginary person.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever tried to bring anything up to you? He doesn't answer you.
No, he does.
Yeah.
He won't talk to, if you're in front of him, if you're
Yeah.
real, he won't talk to you. He just wants nothing to do
He
with
doesn't
you.
see the real people.
No.
And I've never seen him sell a single fucking picture.
I've never seen anyone even at his stand because his
No.
stand.
Because you
is
know
like,
what? I've seen someone like start to browse and then look at him and went, "Let's move, honey."
Yeah.
Like it seems like they suddenly got like
Well,
hip to his
It
whole
looks
vibe.
who's selling that kitchen art has been murdered and replaced by a madman.
Because his pictures are just totally terrible. Well, I was on the subway today in Brooklyn waiting for the train, and I see this fucking dude get on the train. I thought I saw him before, but I was like, "There's no way this guy."
I saw him sitting on empty tracks, yelling, "When is this thing starting?"
Oh no!
So you were in the same
I
neighborhood?
know what neighborhood this guy lives in. It's just very strange to see this dude who just talks to himself all day long, or imaginary people, and then he's on the train waiting for like a
All right,
person.
I'm going to give you an assignment. You have to shadow him, find out where he lives, see if he interacts with any real people at all, and how he knows enough to come back to this spot.
Yeah, every day. For what? Like fucking 6-7 years now, at least since we've been here.
He's always there. I've never walked
Never
by
miss
that.
a day.
No.
He's always out there.
Blizzards,
Yeah, rain or shine. Like I've seen him stand out there pouring rain, just like just talking to him. So.
It was actually a boiling rain. It was the hottest rain I've ever felt in my life. People skimming, and he was just sitting there. Well, I'm sorry, I can't discuss this right now. And he seems like he's Irish or something too. Like
I think he's Russian.
Okay,
I got a Russian vibe off.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I hear some kind of mumbling. Like he doesn't speak out, but it's a mumble, and it's not an American mumble.
No, he's a foreigner of some sort.
Yeah, you'll find out.
I kind of thought like you for some reason. Maybe it's just the way he dresses. I thought he was Irish.
It's the hat.
Yeah, he wears kind of like a cheese cutter hat.
I don't believe his Russian shit at all.
I think he's Russian.
Russians don't wear a cheese cutter's hat.
That's true.
Yeah, but who knows what this guy's doing?
I don't know. If you look, wasn't there like one of their famous, like Lennon or somebody, who almost had like a little cap going?
He did have something kind of like beret-like, maybe.
Yeah. There's by the way, I'm looking for a cap if anyone's got a good one for me. I'm going out of my mind. Yeah, like that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. It's almost like a brimmed beret.
Yeah. It's almost like a Greek sailor's hat.
Yeah. Look good in it.
Yeah, it looks fucking excellent. Looks like he's fucking uniting the workers
Did
of the
Stalin
world.
wear a hat? Or I made that
I
up?
thought he wore like a military brim.
Yeah, he wore like there you go.
Okay, he's got like a stiff hat. I don't even know what you call those, but yeah, it's like a military
Sometimes he would just wear a background. And he's like, yo, boy.
Have you ever seen pictures of young Joseph Stalin?
No.
Super foxy.
What?
I swear.
This is all new to me.
Dude, like actually attractive.
He has great fucking hair.
He's attractive.
All right, let's get it up here so we can look at. I've never seen this before. He looks like an artist.
Yeah, like he's got a cool style. Like he definitely looks like he lives in Brooklyn. He's got a cool scarf, like good hair.
I think if you had to bang a World War II era dictator,
definitely him.
And plus, Hitler had that fucked up nut.
Yeah. No thanks.
He only had one, right?
Yeah.
He only had one. He had some kind of a hook dick, like a tiny hook dick.
Or like or like maybe a micro penis or some sort of issue.
It was a micro penis, but it hooked, and then it also had a piss hole like halfway through.
No,
Yeah.
like a flute.
Yes,
Holds all the way
he had
down.
a flute, he called it his flute pee-pee. It couldn't, legally, it couldn't be called the cock. It was too small. Why would this attractive young model go on to kill so many Jews?
I know.
It seems like he didn't have a
so
problem.
handsome.
Although he looks like he has one crazy eye. You see that?
He is a little off on one side,
Yeah,
but still
madness. That's where I would put that.
very sexy.
When
Like
did he?
another-
All right, let's look at Stalin through the years.
Okay.
I want to see where he went from looking like that. Look at him. Look to that picture. Yeah.
He's got the full beard
He
going.
seems
That's
like
not bad
Chad.
either.
Yeah, he could have hung out with Chad. By Chad, I mean Michael Chad. Oh, that's a goofy.
Yeah, that's not as good.
Oh, there he is, all fucking tatted up. In that
What?
picture.
Is that him?
Here's a profile picture of Stalin.
Yeah.
Big hunk.
I'm gonna search middle-aged Stalin.
Yeah, good. Good idea.
If this is, it comes through.
All right, he put on a little weight here, and the mustache is insane.
Well, that was the look, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did. There, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's good looking.
Maybe Bonnie could play Would You Fuck Him with Stalin. What's the name of that show that she does?
Would you bang him?
Would You Bang Him? And I think they've got some great people lined up, too, for Would You Bang Him?
It's a fun show.
And it also has nothing to do with it. Huh? He's not on stage for it now?
Oh, is he not? When I did it, he was on stage.
Oh, he was
They
part of
were they were hosting it together.
Because it seems to me like it's being pushed by her.
Yeah, I think it's her.
I wish that show was called Should I Bang Him? And it's,
No!
she cocks out the Voss in front of some great young comedians.
Yeah, for Lynn Koplitz, Marina Franklin, Rachel Feinstein. Will
First
be
of
on.
all, that's an unbelievable fucking show.
Wow.
Every one of those people is brilliant.
And then Mark Normand, Sean Donnelly, and Jim Florentine will be part of it.
That's
as
a great
well.
show.
Who are the girls going to want to bang the most? Well, let's throw Donnelly out. Over Mark Norman? No, because Mark Norman seems to be the young Florentine.
I think Lynn Coplitz is going to want Mark Norman.
That's a good call. She likes him, as she says, young, dumb, and filled with Kim.
And the other ladies will go for Jim Florentine.
No one's going for Donnelly? I'm into Donnelly.
That's wide open spaces for Donnelly then. You got nothing but open field. Florentine, Florentine works at like he is a kid. Like he was a kid. And he has wingmen that set him up.
He does?
Yeah, I don't want to say who. Chad Suman comes over. Chad will come over and go, Jim, have you heard back from... And he'll bring up like a great thing that would impress women.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's smart.
And then he makes himself,
scarce.
After that, he'll just walk out of the picture.
Back away slowly.
It's November 6th. Lynn Coplitz, Marina Franklin, who was so great. Rachel Feinstein, just saw her on The Tonight Show not too long ago. She's great. Now, there is a show on Amazon that you can see Rachel Feinstein and Jim Florentine having sex.
And I think you should. Because why not?
Well, I'm gonna pull back the curtain here. So Rachel said, "Yeah, that scene came up, and it was like a 3-way, and it's comedic. It's not softcore porn that they'd done." And she's like, "I was so wanted it to be Jim that got the other part because I've known him for a long time and I could trust him." And this is, a weird thing to do. And then I talked to Florentine about it. He's like, yeah, I knew I'd get her. I knew she'd get on the list. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the difference between men and women right there. It's everything you need to know.
I can trust him.
Yeah. And she can. You know what I mean? Like, he's just going to have a little more. I still think she belongs on The Notebook. He said something funny. I got to get him to come in soon. Because everything that fucking guy says is funny. And wait do you see his new special? It's incredible. It's going to be crazy. All right, why don't we take a break here? I forgot. No one told us to bring this up. We got Hell Gigs.
Yes, that's premiering at 2 p.m.?
2 p.m. Listen to who we've got on this list of Hell Gigs. Bill Burr, Susie Essman, Christina P., Nate Bargatze, Mick Foley, Bert Kreischer, Emma Willman, Carly Aquilino, Bobby Kelly, Brian Regan, Jessica Curson, Dana Gould, Rory Albanese, Lynn Coplitz, Rich Voss, Mark Norman, Jim Norton, Joe Mackey, Doug Benson, Sam Morrell.
That's awesome.
Is that crazy?
I know. Those guys are the best.
That is crazy. All talking about their horrible Hell Gigs. And this is all lined up for, obviously, Halloween, because Halloween, hell.
Scary time on
Scary bloody knife and
bad audience.
eating humans. I once did a show for the entire cast of the film, Split. And I was heckled by 23 different people, and there was only one guy there. Split. It's split personalities. My Hell Gig was a show called Bennington that I was forced to come in and do for 3 hours every day.
Why?
For the money, baby. For the money. Gotta have my cabbage. I'm hungry for cabbage. Give me some of that money. Right back, Bennington.
This is Bennington on Raw Dog 99, Sirius XM's Comedy Club.
On this night of all nights, witching hour takes place.
Ronnie fucking Bennington, gangsta lean at the wheel.
Fuck you, motherfucker! I'll kill your whole fucking family! Helter Skelter on you! Helter Skelter on your house!
He don't need anyone except maybe Gail
do got a great idea for a horror film. It's simply called Kid Killer.
I'm afraid of the Benningtons.
And it's about little kids.
I'm afraid of Disturbed.
They're getting killed at Chuck E. Cheese.
I'm afraid of Chris Stanley.
I want to see Kid Killer.
I'm afraid of Gail.
Throw something at Chris.
Ow.
I'm afraid of the Benningtons.
They're like at Pixar movies and they're getting their throats cut. Don't let your parents leave you alone. Nothing you can do can protect your child from Kid Killer.
Ronnie fucking Bennington.
You want a hoagie, lady? It's made out of your own kid. That'll be the Philly scene.
Oh, that's great.
Ronnie wears shades. Ronnie used to do too much coke.
Your dad leaves you to run into the store for a second. Kid Killer.
Ronnie smokes cigars. Ronnie's pretty quick with a joke.
Under your bed, in your closet. Kid Killer.
Ronnie fucking Bennington.
I ain't done killing kids yet. I'm gonna go all over Booth's Corner, out to Garnet Valley, Ogden, Boothwyn, Twin Oaks Farms, Twin Oaks Village.
I'm afraid of the Benningtons.
You're a monster.
I'm afraid of Disturbed.
Killing kids the whole time.
I'm afraid of Chris Stanley.
I want to see this Kid Killer.
I'm afraid of Gail.
Oh no, they got my kid.
I'm afraid of the Benningtons.
And we just have to think of so many things that kids love so that the thought of going to them once they see it frightens the shit out of them.
Vito thinks he's Bennington. Vito thinks he follows the flow.
Anytime Vito jumps in, he takes us down a cul-de-sac we can't get out of.
Vito tries to comment. Vito's always destined to choke.
Until you learn to calm down. I don't want you on that mic.
Vito's not a Bennington.
I'll stare at my arms and I'll be like, that's black hair.
Okay, dude, you're too big for this. You're too big to be this stupid. I thought he was grown up, but he's not.
I'm afraid of the Benningtons.
If you don't see Kid Killer,
I'm afraid they're disturbed.
then you're a sissy.
I'm afraid of Chris Stanley.
If you don't see Kid Killer,
I'm afraid of Gail.
you'll probably get killed
I'm afraid of the Benningtons.
by a kid. All your friends have seen Kid Killer.
What's in the box? It's another kid.
That was great.
That was from Sal in production.
God, Sal kills it.
Yeah, Sal kills it, but why were we doing a Philly accent for Kid Killer?
I can't remember why Kid Killer became a Philly story, but eventually Kid Killer started to list all the places.
Oh, Delaware County, sure.
Boothwyn.
I felt bad none of the lower Chichester made it. I feel bad for Linwood, Marcus Hook, and Trainer. It's the Bennington Show coming up in just an hour. We're going to play you all your favorite comics, worst hell gigs. Do you know that I forgot that it was Halloween today?
Yes, I had to remind you. You had no awareness of it.
Now here we are. We're having a big Halloween party. So
spooky.
Too much wax corn for me, but other than that. All right, I want to jump into some of the stories today. Grab Jen, because we're going to mini dish this. Jen, why is Black Twitter pissed at Kim Kardashian? This up on the iBank. She dressed up as who?
Aaliyah.
I love Aaliyah.
Yeah, I love
But
love
what
Aaliyah.
was their problem with it?
So their issue is that, she's like, Aaliyah's like kind of our icon, black people's icon. And, she took her as a Halloween costume. She could have chose anybody else. I was okay with Cher, but not Aaliyah. She doesn't fit it. I mean, if you've seen Aaliyah, it just doesn't even, it doesn't do it justice.
But she's not.
What's the story with Aaliyah?
Aaliyah was she died in the
R&B
plane
singer.
crash.
Oh, yeah.
I cried that day.
I know. That was heartbreaking.
We were on a plane that day.
I know. We were actually in the air at the same time. So then when we landed, the news
scary.
was breaking.
Yeah, we landed in L.A., and it was like, do you hear about that plane crash? And I remember we got bumped from one plane to the other. It was like, I forget what they gave. They gave us something extra, but they're like, something about what's Denny doing outside just staring at us? It's like a Halloween frightening.
I want to know if you guys want pizza.
Yeah, tell them to
Oh,
come on
sure.
in.
Come on
come on
in.
in, buddy. What are you afraid to tell us stuff?
Halloween pizza.
Yeah.
Standing outside like a scary ghoul.
Nice to see you, Denny. What's that all about?
Hi, Denny.
Is today pizza day somehow?
Halloween pizza day?
Yeah, it's a Halloween treat. They got candy all over the place and
Yeah.
pizza. So I wanted to bring one down to my friends in the studio. in
Thank
case
you
didn't
so
get it.
much. Why didn't you have a seat? We haven't seen you in a while. Would you like to sit down with us? What kind of candy did they have?
They had gummy bears.
Yeah.
They had a lot of chocolate.
Chocolate?
Yeah, chocolate.
Chocolate.
They had,
Nice chocolate.
They had, what else did they have? Tricks. Not tricks. What are those square things?
No, they have cereal. They have dried cereal for everybody.
No one people.
Well,
Tricks. What? Starburst.
I'm going to jump back with you, Jen.
Okay.
A, I didn't know there was something called Black Twitter.
Yeah. What is Black Twitter?
It's the whole separate thing that we don't get to go on.
It's
How come they don't call it bitter?
That's good.
one.
That's good, Denny.
good. It's just
Dangerous, but good.
it's just, when a bunch of black people just go on Twitter ranting and raving. I mean,
But it's
Now-
the same Twitter.
If she was
It's the
black,
same Twitter.
would this have been okay?
it probably, it would have, because it wouldn't be cultural appropriation. That's what
It
they're
isn't
claiming
cultural
it is.
appropriation. It's Halloween.
It's Halloween. And also, she's not in blackface. She's not even.
But if you notice her nipples showing,
I did see that.
Yeah.
I did notice that, and I focused in on it.
Yeah, so-
100%.
She's blacklisted.
her stepfather is a woman now, so she's been through.
Yeah, I give her the benefit of the doubt.
Chris, you got a little plates, a little something for this.
Yeah, comment.
A little Aaliyah music.
Amani's grabbing that stuff.
Oh, money. Let's get some money. Let's see what other stories are out there. All right, the Andy Dick story. He just got fired for a movie because apparently he was grabbing people's genitals and licking their face.
Yeah.
And we live in a post-Kevin Spacey world now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you should do that to your coworkers.
Why?
Grab their genitals and. Well,
I'd rather that than they grab my face and lick my genitals.
good point. I mean, if you're given the option.
Did he do
sure.
it both at the same time, like a grab and lick?
Oh my God, Danny, you're incorrigible.
That's because I had a lot of chocolate.
Chocolate.
He loves chocolate, that Danny.
Chocolate's so good.
Did you have chunky chocolate in Philly? What
Yeah,
a
of
chunk
course. It was a national
No, was
thing.
it?
But
Okay.
What is
wasn't
chunky
it?
chocolate?
Chunky was a
Chunky
big
chocolate.
fat. It's like a candy bar, but it's fat. But I didn't like when they put raisins in it. I don't want
raisins,
fucking
yeah.
raisins
Ooh,
in my
I do.
chocolate.
Yeah,
I
there
love
it is.
chocolate with
You ever saw
raisins.
Chunky before?
And there
Oh,
was
yeah, I
the,
have seen. I don't,
Wish I had
like,
chunky
are
right
they
now.
even around?
and the actor Arnold Stang used to do the voice. Want a chunk of chocolate? Arnold Stang also was in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Yeah, these are great facts. These are fun
Halloween
facts.
facts.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
are fun facts.
Yeah, I'm having some fun with these facts, Dennis. Dennis, anything we can plug for you?
DennisFalcone.com, available for your wedding and private affairs.
Private affairs.
Ooh, very sexy.
Yeah.
It's a private affair. It's a private affair.
I did a little Halloween party.
DJ.
Did a little Halloween party for the kids this past week and a safe Halloween on Friday night.
Ah,
where
safe
they went-
Halloween.
Yes. So they went through the schools and they got candy at night.
Oh,
And I was out there rocking the house in the courtyard.
great. What kind of songs did you play? The new stuff?
Yeah, I played a little bit of everything, a little Uptown Funk.
Nice.
Oh,
Oh, that's
go
a good
crazy
one.
for that.
Played
They all
a
start
little of
dancing.
that, and Despacito.
Oh, that Despacito is
God
going to be a big
damn,
hit.
that song is
That's gonna be
good.
a big
That
hit.
song is all over.
I
It's
know.
massive.
It's beloved.
Yeah.
That's burning up the charts.
I was at a wedding this summer and people went fucking ape shit
Yeah, they
when
went
that song
crazy.
went.
Yeah, they
Like people were
screamed.
tearing their
I
clothes
saw a
off.
woman get stabbed.
Yeah.
Or Despacito. And what is the shape of your body? What's the story with that thing?
By Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, it's Sharon. Is that, does it seem like it's some of the
Well,
bullet?
I wouldn't play a song like that for kids.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play I wouldn't play I'm Too Sexy.
I see.
Yeah, you know the song Shots?
Shot.
Right. I was
shot.
doing a Sweet 16 once, and the girl came over to me and she goes, "Could you play Shots?" And I said, "No, I don't think that's appropriate. I think your mom would like it." She goes, "No, my mom wants to hear it. Her mom requested it. I'm not kidding you.
Things
yeah,
are crazy on the
Shots.
island.
shots. Things just it just gets out of control.
What are you going to do? He said he didn't grab any of the genitals. And
Okay.
licking faces is just what I do, he said. That is the Andy Dick thing.
Yeah, you
Now,
can't
you
do
don't
that.
look. He's got a fun act there. He's just acting
Michael
like he's
Myers.
scaring everybody with it. It makes it fun, doesn't it? the
I'm not
Halloween
having
murder?
fun with that. I don't like it. I don't feel safe here.
Yeah.
We're having a safe Halloween.
Yeah, I know.
We used to do.
I want to
these.
hear Despacito, not see an Axeman.
I want to show this one, Gail. You found this story. It's up on the iBang, and it's UFO lights in Siberia.
Yes, so
It's
this is
scary as shit.
in the
Dennis.
night sky in Siberia. and it is like almost like a sphere or a round shape that is kind of glowing and changing and moving. It's so bizarre. Had everyone there very freaked out.
The people of Russia said, welcome to... Look at that.
What
Look
the
at
fuck?
Oh my God. Isn't that insane?
Oh my God, it looks like a razor.
Oh no, that's not it. Skip.
Sky over northern Siberia had residents wondering if an alien invasion was about to unfold. The strange event occurred last night and was seen by several individuals in the town of Salkhard, including a few photographers looking to snap some shots of the northern lights.
What is that, man?
It's so strange.
What is that?
Now, they're saying it's a light that rose out of a forest. That's the excuse they give. How could that even be?
There's no forest there.
Yeah, they were able
But
to
how
see
could
it from...
light physically just come out of a forest? Like, oh, that's a natural thing. They're telling us that there's natural things that aren't obviously natural.
Jump ahead. Look at it there. How
Sorry, this
weird.
is some bullshit. There's nothing natural about this. It's a fucking spaceship.
Okay, Chris, let's just
It had
watch
people
language.
Looks like
trying to guess what it was. Some people obviously go alien invasion.
It's alien invasion.
Immediately. Wow. Some people said gap in the space-time continuum.
All right, interdimensional passageway.
It's
That's a possibility.
It's Russia's Roswell.
Yeah,
It is Russia's Roswell.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it, because this is a complete cover-up.
And then, maybe equally as scary, some people just thought testing missiles and rockets, like Russia testing missiles and rockets.
Could I try another thing, though?
Yeah.
Could this be a wheel in the sky that keeps on burning?
Could be, yeah.
Good song, Journey.
Because if you look at that, it does look like a wheel in the sky.
It does.
That's also burning.
It does keep on burning.
What does
too.
Black Twitter think of this? Has Black Twitter
They would.
said...
Well,
They said that's chakray.
Yeah, they would move as soon as immediately after. they saw this.
Jen, do you ever go on Black Twitter?
Yes.
Do you
yes.
black tweet?
Sometimes when I'm watching a TV show.
Are
with
you
Black
accepted
Twitter,
by blacks?
I am.
And you're accepted?
I am accepted.
You're accepted by whites, right?
I am. So I'm like right in the. Sometimes.
But what about Asians?
I haven't tried that.
Thank you. I don't think Asians are going to be as
I don't think they are.
No way.
Are you okay, buddy?
I don't know what just happened.
You were pissed about that? Unbelievable, the Ojas.
There was nothing that you could have bagged into. You just slapped.
Did you just have just like completely? Where did your arms just go? Like he
slapped
flapped
his
his arm.
Board in front of me. Did Black Twitter come up with invite to the cookout? Is
That's
that Black Twitter
over,
thing?
dude.
It's over?
Yeah,
not
it's
even
long over.
Yeah.
You mean Greek Fest?
Is there?
You know, right? Yeah. Greek Fest, right?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
They have that on Long Island. You know what the Greek Fest is? It's like all just black people go to the beach.
Don't be racist, dude.
You just said that. You said Black Twitter.
Yeah, but I mean the way you're saying black people go to the beach.
No, it's this big thing.
Yeah,
They
I
all
know what
go to
I.
the beach.
I've been to.
Let's go to the beach.
Well, it's
Let's
called
go to
Black
the beach.
College Reunion in Daytona.
Yeah, it's very big.
No, you know, I was living in Daytona, and a lot of the store owners and club owners would act like, "Oh, we're having termite bombed," and they would just
Oh my
put
God.
that, and they
Yeah.
would gas their business. So black
Just
people,
to avoid
yeah,
Oh
Black
my
College
God.
Week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not good.
yeah.
That's not
I saw that
nice.
happen, and that's what I call racism.
Yeah, that's-
Yes,
Yeah.
that is.
I don't like that. I'm accepted by all races, I think.
Really?
But how about you
yeah.
accepting them?
Of course I do.
No one ever goes around saying, "You know what? Races accept me." You say, "I accept races."
I accept races.
Is there one minority that you don't like?
No.
Pick one if you had to.
I have one.
What?
Really?
The Danes.
Yeah, the Danes.
Yeah.
That's very specific. What about the Danes don't you like?
Well, they're always sitting out on their stoops and they play boom boxes.
Doesn't sound.
They're scary. The
used
Danes are scary.
It's like trouble.
I
They're
used to
from
have-
Denmark.
I used to have problems with the Mayans.
Mayans, yeah.
I don't like them because they didn't have a top to their pyramid. I don't like a flat pyramid top.
Not
What?
pointy enough.
Vito, being Italian, who are you most racist about? I guess you're one of those guys that grabs a bat if some black guy comes into your neighborhood.
That Nick.
That's all my uncles are that way. I mean, me personally, I only hang out with black people, but Seems like the Italians.
How old were you the first time you heard the N-word?
Like 4.
4. Danny, what about for you? Out on Long Island, you must have heard it quite a bit.
I
huh?
grew up in Brooklyn, so I
Yeah.
heard it. Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah,
Jen, what about you?
About preschool.
About preschool.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that was the teacher.
Very young for me by family
Which one?
member.
Uncle?
No, not an uncle.
Grandmother?
No, great, step grandfather. I think,
Oh,
yeah,
Ba?
yeah,
Yeah.
No,
he
my
was
family
racist.
didn't use that word. They would just use colored guy.
yeah.
The colored.
That was when
Outdated.
they were being nice. Color guy.
Yeah.
Some coloreds are nice.
Yeah, you know,
Some
the colored
coloreds.
guy.
we got
The color guy at work is a very
That's
nice
exactly.
man.
My dad would say that. You know, we got a guy, Charlie, color guy. He's a truck driver. Hey, this guy's nice. Comes up from North
But
Carolina.
that's the whole thing. Is
Oh
like,
my
why do you
God.
even have to point out color?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they do that in the news all the time with age too. The 25-year-old.
Yeah, that is odd, isn't
Do
it?
that
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
It is strange. You're like,
By the way, at what age are you when they throw young on? Is that 80 years young? Like at a certain point, they're going to say that you're not old, you're young.
yeah, I think once you hit the 80s, you don't want to be doing that to someone in their 60s because that just sounds like you're mocking.
Right. But I like to say he's 33 years young.
Forever young.
Oh, Dylan, right?
What's that?
Dylan?
Well, Rod Stewart, Alphaville.
Oh, yeah, but covering who?
What's that?
That's a Dylan cover.
No, Forever Young.
Forever Young,
yeah.
written by Dylan.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it was a different version though by Alphaville, right? It was the
I
same
don't know who
song?
Alphaville is.
Alphaville.
If anything, it's a
I
made
think
up
they
name.
sing Despacito.
What just happened?
Somebody came and shut a door.
Oh my God, this
What
is
happened?
spooky.
We were having like
Shut it
a
down.
little picnic. What went on there?
I don't know what's happening.
We're trying to find the plate. There's no plates down here in this kitchen, so we're just
We
trying
don't
to
need
find more
plates.
plates.
We're-
Just use paper towels.
Yeah, we
I
have
feel the
those.
same
Plates
way.
are plenty
By the
now.
way,
Use
I saw
newspapers.
a guy. See if this annoys you. So he's walking down the street and he's eating his slice of pizza correctly, right?
Yeah.
Like a New Yorker.
Two.
But then he's got a paper plate that he's carrying. Thank
No,
you.
thank you. If you're committed to walking down the street and slice, why do you have a plate in your hand? That sounds crazy.
Like
Thank you, Chris.
Like John Travolta.
So
in
you
Saturday Night
do
Fever,
like what?
too.
Paper
You do
towel,
too.
like
No.
a napkin in one hand, pizza
Yeah,
in the other.
Straight.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you don't put the napkin underneath.
Oh no, that would be
Now,
silly.
now what's going on?
Now
Oh,
we
it's
have the
madness.
plates.
They got
They
plates.
have plates.
Pizza's going to be ice cold
I mean,
by the time
yeah,
we eat it.
this
You
took
can touch it.
80 fucking minutes.
Don't know
to
what's
do.
going on.
And all because no one checked to us to see if we cared about plates. Where'd that come from? It looks pretty good.
It does look good, actually.
Upstairs. On the 37th
We have a
floor,
pizza oven
that's
up there now.
Yeah.
You like when everybody up on 37 now? It's packed up there.
Yeah, it's packed. Everybody is in one big conference room. It's like a computer lab.
I have never been up on 37. Is
No?
it nice?
It's
Yeah,
weird.
this time of year.
It's weird
It's all
looking in there.
offices. It's a little,
It's strange, and
It's a
they
little
really have
quiet.
them all packed in.
Yeah.
it's a little
Which is just
quiet up
bizarre.
there. It's not like the offices down here where you have music coming out and loud. You have metal and hip hop, oldies.
No, there's about 30 people in a conference room with a bunch of computers.
It's a sweatshop.
When is this going to be fixed down here?
They say January,
They
but I don't
say.
see it.
No way.
None of this year.
No, I agree with you guys.
There you go.
It's already passed.
Effing way.
It's bullshit if they think this thing's going to be done. I remember like a week ago, there was garbage bags up on the wall.
Yeah, it was really strange.
I don't even know what that means.
Just
They had-
wires
they had these
hanging
big-
and then garbage bags.
They had these big plastic bags. It looked like in E.T. Remember when it was in the
I
science
didn't
lab?
see
No
it. Is it
thanks.
good?
That's
E.T.?
okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's all right.
No.
Next year, E.T. on Broadway is coming. Did you know
What?
that?
E.T. on Broadway?
Broadway musical. Yeah.
I don't believe this.
Sopranos on Broadway is
Is
coming.
Are they going to use Heartlight?
Yeah. Neil Diamond. Hit music.
Get on your Heartlights.
The important question here is E.T. gonna sing?
They got to have an animatronic.
Elliot.
And what was that other movie that came out like right after it that kind of ripped off E.T.? What the heck was that other one?
Oh, Schindler's List.
You know, there was a
Mac
bit
Me?
that I think it was who did Schindler's People. It was supposed to be a sitcom. He came out with a joke, and who the heck? Richard Lewis, I think, did it.
Really?
And it didn't go anywhere.
He was really going to do Schindler's People?
I know. I think he just made a joke about the sitcom, like I just made
He
a.
was in that too long ago.
Yeah.
You a big fan?
Oh yeah, I like Richard Lewis. He's a nice guy.
Let's do Denny's ranks of comedians. Rank from your top all the way down.
Well, the top was probably Henny Youngman.
I would have had you as a Larry Storch man.
Yeah, Larry Storch. He was up there too. I like Jan Murray. I liked Alan King. Liked a lot of those. Like Charlie Callis just always gets me. Do you like Charlie Callis? he always did that. I always liked him. I liked.
He always take a pencil and acts like he just got shot in the eye.
That is a good joke.
Yeah, I liked Mack and Meyer for Hire. Those guys were good.
You ever see Charlie Callis play drums?
Yes,
unbelievable drums.
Yes, he used to play it on Carson once in a while.
Johnny Carson.
I call him Carson, yeah. He used to set in for Ed Shaughnessy. Well, who was the drummer on Carson? Was it Ed Shaughnessy?
No. Ed Shaughnessy was a backup trumpet player to Doc, right?
I'll take your word for it, okay.
I'm going to say it was Hennessy. The
Hennessy.
Lovely alcoholic beverage. You looking for Carson's drummer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, my God. Just show how much pizza you went through that.
Oh, my God, Chris.
What's wrong with that?
You're gulping.
Also, like,
are you worried that you're not going to get a second slice?
He also got his pizza last, which is really weird.
Ed Shaughnessy was the
Ed Shaughnessy.
Ed
You had
Shaughnessy.
it.
Right.
Bing.
Yeah. And I like Foster Brooks.
Oh, the drunk.
Yeah. He could sing. He was a
This
singer.
I didn't know.
He was a singer. He wasn't as good as Jim Nabors as a singer, but he was up there. Yeah, you look him up. Foster Brooks. He was hilarious. Used to be on a Carson show. No, Carson. Dean Martin had him on all the time.
Roast.
Oh, those were the best. Those were the best.
You like the new roast?
No.
You too mean?
No. Yeah, they're too dirty. There's no reason for that. Yeah, it was good back then. Milton Berle, Martha Ray was on a lot. Those were some good ones.
You have a lot of memories, Dennis.
I do. Yeah. I like to share the old times.
You feel like the old times are never going to come back, though?
Probably not.
Like you peaked a long time ago?
Oh, yeah. I was a 1950s kind of guy.
Sure.
I liked it back then.
You were happy then. Those were happy days.
Those were happy days.
Happy Days was about you, right? That was about the story of your life.
Yeah, right. You remember that was a spinoff, wasn't it, of another show, Happy Days? Was it on Love American Style?
Love American Style.
Right.
They kind of snuck in a pilot. They would do a lot of those things in those days without calling it a pilot.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, to me, this was the funniest thing that they used to do. They would just be like, let's suppose there was a show called The Ron Bennington Show, right? And you're like, Ron, what are you up to? And I go, like, my friend Chris is coming over. And then Chris would come by, and then he would leave, and I wouldn't go with him, and the story would follow Chris, and he would be interacting, and they would just fake a pilot in the middle of a popular show.
That is so weird.
You mean like Rhoda? Would it be close to what Rhoda did?
Well, Rhoda was actually on the show, then they spin off.
Yeah.
But is it
Petticoat
Laverne
Junction?
and Shirley had
Laverne and
that?
Shirley, what was that?
Yeah.
They tried to do that in The Office to give Dwight his own show because there was an episode where no one from The Office was there, but it was on Dwight's farm, and like random family members of Dwight come out.
Suddenly,
of
there's
nowhere.
just 7 people that are very much involved in Dwight's life.
Yeah, and they're all discussing maybe we should just buy this farm and just like work it together, you know? And he's like having moments with children that he's never spoken about or talked about. Like it was fucking ridiculous.
Although when a TV show goes off like MASH, then after MASH, Well, that was pretty smart for McLean Stevenson to leave the show at the height of that show.
Well, he got a chance to do Hello, Larry.
Hello, Larry. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Larry.
That was it. And
That
then,
should have worked.
And then when what's his name left Friends, then it became Joey.
Oh, yeah.
And that wasn't on too long.
He tried to do a backdoor pilot on Married with Children where he was like a boxer with his dad and he just showed up as one of Kelly's boyfriends.
Who's this?
Matt LeBlanc from Friends.
Matt LeBlanc tried like 6 shows before Friends.
Yeah.
I like episodes. You ever see episodes? I think it's on Showtime. That's good.
Just end it.
Yeah. Forever?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
You didn't see the last episode?
No, I haven't seen the last 5 seasons. So I haven't had Showtime.
Too bad. Last 5 is when it kicked
I'm going to go
in.
to Blockbuster and see if they have it on VHS.
Oh,
to take
Blockbuster.
out.
Remember that? Remember Blockbuster?
Do you remember Lifetime? You remember Lifetime memberships?
You
at
remember
video stores?
Lifesavers? You know, you could get these little things and you could just eat them.
They had gummy
Kids
ones
don't
in the
have
lobby.
that now.
They had gummy ones, gummy Lifesavers.
Remember the flag, the American flag?
I don't.
We used to salute it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, we had a thing, we used to just call it the moon. And you'd look up and you're like, full moon tonight, but yesterday wasn't so full. You know, those were good times.
Those we used to think it was made out of cheese.
Oh.
Did you ever hear that one?
My backyard had grass in it.
Yeah.
Grass.
We'd have to mow it. I was like, hey, did you cut the grass? I'm like, no, Dad.
I grew up.
I'm having a lifesaver right now.
The The only place where we had grass was in the park. We just had cement. We had cement yards.
Right.
We had a front. You know,
And we were happy with
used to
it.
sit
We
on
were
the stoop.
happy just to have it.
I used to love it. Used to sit on the stoop of my AM radio, listen to the music. Doobie Brothers.
Who did you used to listen to?
What's that?
Doobie Brothers?
I used to listen to, there was a radio station in New York called WMCA, and their disc jockeys were known as the Good Guys.
The Good Guys.
But I used to do something called DXing. This is what radio nerds like myself would do. We would listen to stations like in Philly. We used to drive to the Verrazano Bridge in Brooklyn, listen to Philly radio. You know?
It was good times.
Yeah. They don't make them like that anymore.
Better days.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? What you grew up with? The internet?
I had the internet. I had Prodigy.
CompuServe.
I had CompuServe. I bounced
Do you have
around.
eWorld?
I didn't have U-World. I know I did rack up a giant bill on AOL when they billed you by the hour.
Yeah.
So I had
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Then it was what, $19.95 a month when they went.
Remember dial-up?
Dial-up internet modems.
Yeah. Remember phone books? You just look up people's names in the phone book.
Like everyone's in there. Like all your friends and
Phone
neighbors.
book is here.
I
Steve
remember
Martin
my
and
mom
Dre-
used to wear earrings. You know? She'd have earrings. Yeah.
In the
they were
ears.
like rings, but for her ears. She had like a little something shiny there. And I'm like, Mom, don't forget your earrings. They were fun. You know, it was different. She used to go to the beauty parlor. You know, you don't even see that anymore.
What is that?
Well, back then, the women would have eyes. So they'd want to get a little shade on their eyes.
That was one of the good old days,
Those
as
were
Carly
good
Simon would say.
times.
Right?
Good times.
Good times, baby.
Guys, remember when there was cavemen? Like you would just not even have a home.
Her
You just
job.
Do you remember the TV show,
Yeah.
It's About Time?
It's about time. It's about please.
Yeah.
It's about time to slap your face.
was a
Stop
good
it, kids.
show.
You're gonna hurt somebody.
We
with
were back
your
in
feet.
time. We were
F
back
Troop.
in time. Yeah, those were some good shows back
What was your
then.
favorite show back then?
Oh, back then, definitely Hogan's Heroes. I mean, nothing is as funny as a comedy set in a concentration camp.
Very controversial since it was only 20 years after the war and a lot of people died in
That was fun. Like
camps.
F Troop, I liked My Favorite Martian, My Mother the Car, with Larry Van Dyke. Jerry Van Dyke, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Some people consider it the worst TV show of all time. I consider those people to be quite insane.
That was a good show. That was a good show. Man from Uncle. Used to love that one on Friday
The
night.
Man from Uncle.
Yeah. Robert Vaughn was in that. Yeah.
And who was the other guy?
That was a fellow who played Ilya Kuryakin.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. He's also in, NCIS. He was the doctor.
Did you know that, Chris?
I didn't know that. I haven't seen NCIS.
What shows they have when you were a kid?
That was a good show.
It sounds Salute Your Shorts. That was a TV show on Nickelodeon. Doug.
Doug.
Doug loves movies.
Yeah, that was his first
Mr.
show.
Ed. Remember when Mr. Ed played for the Dodgers?
Yeah, what was he talking?
Leo DeRocha was the manager, and he slid into home plate because he had long legs. He had horse legs.
Your favorite show, Mr. Ed?
I used to love Mr. Ed. Yeah, that was a good show. Gumby was great. Those were days. What? Yeah, I used to like Gumby. I used to like Captain Kangaroo. Did you have Captain Kangaroo in Philly? Was
Yeah,
that
we did
national?
have Captain Kangaroo, but we had a lot more local stuff too.
Yeah.
But
locals.
Captain Kangaroo was, and quite frankly, I think that he just carried Mr. Green Jeans. I think if Mr. Green Jeans didn't get that show, he never would have worked.
I tell you, that teddy bear used to scare the heck out of me.
It was
He
scary.
never said a word. Yeah.
The grandfather clock who had the nods, it was a heroin addicted grandfather clock.
Bunny
It was
Rabbit.
Just, yeah.
Remember Bunny Rabbit? It was.
Yeah.
I think he was a hand puppet though.
Yeah, but it was not a nice rabbit.
No.
Not nice. I was like, if there was any character was a dick, I'd point that out to people.
This guy's kind of a dick.
Did Captain Kangaroo just have children on his show, or did he play cartoons?
No.
Neither.
What did he do then?
He talked to kids.
He just talked to children.
He
Just
did,
talk.
yeah, he did bits. Yeah. Did you have the Three Stooges on what's his name? Captain Jack McCartney.
We had everybody but Mo. We didn't
Yeah,
get Mo
Mo.
in Philly.
You had Joe Besser,
There was only two Stooges.
Joe Besser, and Joe Dorita. Remember Joe Dorita? He was the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really.
They're all dead now.
They
Sad.
are. Yeah. So was
Every
Abbott
Stooge is
Costello.
dead.
Yeah. Abbott
Well, I
Costello.
knew Abbott was dead, but
Yeah, Costello passed
too.
away. Yeah, he passed. I think we really raised the demos on the show to about 85.
But that happens any show you go on, and no matter what you do.
Yeah, I want to get on that
Charlie
Jenny
Chaplin?
McCarthy show. I think
Have
I
you,
fit
have
right
you
in.
ever been able to get on yet?
No. No, I saw her once in the elevator and said hi.
Did you get her to remember her shows from the 90s?
What movie? She was in a movie, too. What the hell? Oh, she was in a movie with Larry the Cable Guy.
Which one?
What is it? Yeah, he was in a movie with Larry the Cable
Don't look
Guy.
everything up, Chris.
Yeah.
One
Just
of the
know
fun
it.
things about remembering is just knowing it.
You see Denny looking anything up?
No, Denny's
it's all
still trapped.
right off the top of his head.
Yeah, my wife gets mad at me because I come up with just stupid facts.
I
like
thought
that
your
know.
wife gets mad at you because you've been having multiple affairs.
I just show up.
Does that make her upset?
I just show up at home. No,
How many kids you have?
3.
And none look like you.
No,
God,
they look like the. No, they do. Some of them do.
they look like the Iceman.
Some of them do. Yeah, they look like the Iceman.
Peter, what do you remember?
I really liked the show Family Matters growing up, and I would watch reruns of Happy Days. I was a big Fonzie fan.
Who?
Arthur Fonzarelli, Henry Winkler.
He did. Hey, he used to say
the
hey.
full name really got it. Arthur Fonzarelli. Maybe you know him better as Arthur Fonzarelli.
Oh, the Arthur show.
Did you ever see Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
People always came to the island. How did they get there? Remember, like they'd always have other guest stars on there. Don Rickles, I think, showed up.
How did they get?
And then how did he get off the island?
They would show it at the end of every episode.
Yeah, but why didn't the people from the show go on the boat
Well,
with
they
him?
were being paid to stay on that island and do a show. If they left, so would the ratings.
I was always hoping that Dr. Moreau would have showed up on that island.
Because of the island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, the island of Dr. Moreau. Remember the one, what was it? Marlon Brando was in the remake of that.
Yes.
With the remake of that.
Remember when you were talking about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, just now.
Just now.
God, it's a great time.
Yeah.
That was a whole different time. Remember when you were a kid and they wouldn't let blacks use the water fountains?
No, I didn't.
Those were good times.
No,
in the 50s.
no. I didn't grow up in the South.
All right, let's not attack the South,
No,
okay?
They're
Not
good
the-
too.
It's fucked up.
No, I grew up in Brooklyn. We played with black people. We played with Hispanics, Irish.
What do you mean
Germans.
played with them?
That's creepy.
Games? You know, we used to play Army all the time.
Oh, sure.
play
So
Army
you're
back
shooting
in
at
the
them.
60s. Yeah.
What were you playing? Kent State?
No. No. We used to play Rat Patrol with Vic Morrow. That was a good show.
What happened to him?
He died. Vic Morrow. Remember he was involved in that movie where the kid died?
Twilight Zone.
Was it your Twilight Zone movie? Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Got his head cut off.
Yeah. Hate when that happens in a movie. Yeah, that was kind of the downfall of him.
Yeah, it seemed like after that he wasn't doing anything.
No, he wasn't doing much.
Severed head fucked them all up.
Yeah.
Chris, you got to drop the F-bomb?
I don't. It just comes
Yeah.
out. I try not.
This is like a safe Halloween.
Okay.
I didn't like
For
any
kids.
of the movies that were
Me
made
neither.
of the TV shows, like My Favorite Martian.
You didn't like
The movie?
that?
You didn't like it?
I like the original TV show with Ray Walston.
Why not just
Uncle
show the
Martin.
TV show on a big screen?
Uncle Martin. And I like that. That was a good show. Adam's Family. The original. I don't like the remakes.
You didn't like the remakes?
No.
Did you like the courtship of
Flintstones?
Eddie's fathers?
Yeah. Mr. Eddie Father.
People, let me tell you about my best friend.
Harry
Anybody
Nilsson.
know who did that song?
Nilsson.
There you go.
Yeah.
Harry Nilsson.
Yeah. He also did another song. Do you remember? There was a car called the Arrow. Was it the Plymouth Arrow?
Me and my arrow.
That was Harry Nilsson.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Straight up and narrow. But that was from The Point. You ever saw the cartoon The Point?
No.
Oh,
it's so
you
good.
would love it.
It
It's
is so-
all his songs.
Really?
It's about a little kid named Oblio who was born, and there was a land. Everybody has a point, and Oblio was born with a round head. And, you know, it's kind of shows what it was like to grow up with on Long Island if you had a
Deficiencies.
college education. You know what I mean? Just didn't fit in.
Right. I liked Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse. Remember that show? Did
Oh,
you have
sure.
that? Doom, 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 doom. That was a good show.
Somebody told me the other day, do you remember the banana splits?
Yes.
And remember that island that they would go to Danger Island? The kid on Danger Island grew up to be Jan Michael Vincent.
Really? The Baby
Really?
Blue Marine.
Yeah, Baby Blue Marine, Tribes,
Yeah.
and the greatest movie of all time. Wait for it, everybody. Big Wednesday. Big Wednesday. He was the pinup boy. I was talking about this with Artie the other night. So I'm with Artie, and he's like, when are we doing this? Thanksgiving? So then he goes, you want anything from the 7-Eleven? I see him go down to the 7-Eleven, and he gets a bunch of stuff, and it looks like he's heading back to his car. I think he said on Anthony's show yesterday the cops picked him up.
What?
Heading to his car, yeah.
Why?
They held him
What did he
overnight.
buy?
Huh?
What did he buy?
I didn't
Sweet
ask.
tarts?
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, look that up. But I don't think they charged him with anything. But I think the man was harassing him a little bit. Because you got that cop house real close to the stand.
Yeah, very close. It's so weird.
No, it doesn't say anything.
Well, we'll get to the bottom of it.
We'll figure it out. Don't you worry.
I'm not finding anything for Artie.
So it didn't exist then.
You're calling him a liar?
I'm not calling him a liar. I'm just saying that I'm not finding anything on the
Seems
police
like
blotter.
No, he didn't get arrested. You heard me say he didn't get arrested. This is more just like
he Googled Artie. I saw him Google Artie held.
Artie held.
Nothing's gonna come up for that.
Just put Artie Lang
he was
arrested.
detained 2 days in jail and released Sunday at 6 p.m.
That stuff.
That stuff that happened to Artie Lang. That's not gonna go. Actually, surprisingly,
I think they
something
said
did
he
come
was
up.
a person of interest.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
In what?
He is interesting.
Yeah.
First of all, you don't know. You're not his lawyer. And I don't know whether he did the second show, but I was just saying to somebody, oh, Artie's doing great. I just saw him. He's doing fantastic. Did you find it?
I'm not finding it.
Look on any of the Anthony Gossip pages. Get to the bottom of it. I think it had something to do with Paul Manafort drops his fucking name.
Oh, no.
Hey, there was a good show last night on HLN. It was about the story about Heaven's Gate. Did you
Oh,
see
the
that?
movie?
Yeah. No. The people who all killed themselves wearing the Nikes in California, Silicon Valley, the cult.
We used to have great cults back then, didn't we,
Yeah,
Dennis?
Jonestown.
Oh, God, love them.
Yeah.
Are they
That's
the Kool-Aid drinkers?
That's where
Jonestown?
that's where the term "drinking the Kool-Aid" came from. Right after that was back in the 70s.
That was great. Remember Rocky?
Those are some good ones.
Yeah. Jaws.
Jaws. I stop. Jaws could be on. I stop and watch it all the time.
Me too.
Oh, what?
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's just a good
Tiger
one.
Shark.
Sad, though, what happened to Quint. I always feel
Yeah.
bad. He's
And
such a nice guy.
Not only do I feel bad, it's like I just feel bad no one seemed all that upset.
They didn't
They're
know
just
him that
like-
well.
I know, but still they at least had a, like
You have to
a
think
trip
of it,
with
how
him.
would we feel if we were out on a boat trip and a shark ate Vito? We're not going to let it ruin our time.
We just go Vito, and you would shake your head. No, didn't make
He's
it.
just going,
I go Vito, more like Ito. You know what I mean? You find it?
This is what I'm finding, that you spent the weekend in jail for a misunderstanding. That's all I'm finding right now.
Got to be a.
Now, was he able to do a second show at the stand?
I don't believe so, since he was held.
That makes me feel terrible that he got nabbed and I'm right around the corner.
aw.
Going like this.
But
Artie's
he,
doing great.
he couldn't get out like Otis used to get out on the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, that was so nice. He was the town drunk.
Yeah,
Right?
he was town drunk.
Remember Barney Fife?
Barney is the best. Yeah. And the barber. Remember the barber?
Floyd.
The barber. A haircut. Oh, Andy, remember he used to have.
He was gay. We didn't know it at the time. Coming up, hell gigs.
And his nephew.
His nephew was gay.
No.
He was with him.
Yeah.
Oh, there were a couple?
So those were good shows.
Remember Kevin Spacey used to pin guys down to the bed and try to make them make out with him?
You know, I actually don't remember
He
that.
was on that good TV show Wise Guy with Ken Wall. Remember that with Ken Wall?
Yeah, remember when Pink Floyd did The Wall?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to them? They had a
Floyd?
fight about something.
They had a falling out. These bands always do.
Yeah. Well, at least the Eagles never did, right?
Nope.
Remember the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yep. Well, no, they threw what's his name? Don
Nuts.
Felder.
Yeah.
Felder's out of the group.
Yeah.
They won't let him back in.
But Don Rickles, remember him? Don Rickles, he would insult people. Bam, bam.
I used to see him. I used to see him in Westbury Music Fair.
Oh, remember
that was
that?
a theater
All the
in the
bands that
round.
would go there? Yeah.
That was a theater in the round. They
Yeah.
also have the
Remember when
Putnam
Yes did
Go-Round?
Roundabout?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the single version though.
Oh, you don't like
it's
the
too
album
long.
version's
It's
too
too
long. You
long.
like a nice short
I like
song.
a nice 3.5 minute song.
Yeah, anything more than that, and you're like, boring.
Well, yeah, because I just lose attention, and you can play more music in the hour.
Yeah, you could put on an Emerson, Lake and Palmer song after that.
I like Lucky Man.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was a short one.
Yeah, well, on the single the album was very long. Yeah.
I only bought the singles.
Was a Lucky Man. Remember smoking Luckies?
Yes.
You know, you're feeling lucky, and
Yeah.
then you give
Well, you
somebody
know why the
smoke.
pack was white back before
Because
World War
was,
II?
yeah,
No,
you didn't want any segregation.
it was green at one time.
Yeah.
The pack was green.
Remember Mo Green? He got shot in the eye.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Like what the fuck?
Godfather
They
1.
come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you, but no, getting back
Remember
to
the show Vegas though? How great that was.
Oh, yeah.
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 Dan Tanner.
Yeah, Dan Tanner.
Yeah, it was in Vegas.
Remember Dan Perlman?
And that pilot almost picked up.
Oh, speaking of pilots, remember Eastern Airlines used to catch it at LaGuardia?
I don't.
Yeah,
I
you could go all the way down to Miami in it. Mom, remember Miami Vice? How good that was?
My mom loved
Don
that show.
Johnson, right?
Tubbs.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember Tubbs?
Tubbs, he was awesome.
Yeah, but remember getting in a tub like a bathtub?
Oh, yeah. 'cause it was
Remember
hot,
Mr.
like hot
Bubbles?
water.
Oh, God, I love
There's a
Mr.
man in the
Bubbles.
bathtub.
Yeah.
That guy came off creepy.
Remember when you said I'm blowing bubbles and the guy'd say, my name's Bubbles. You're like, I didn't blow him. Why is everybody pointing at me? Why aren't I fitting in with the other kids? Oh, these are great times, though, huh?
We should do this every week. Just take a
I
trip
would
down
love.
memory lane.
I love to take the trip down memory lane.
Denny's trip
I don't
down
wanna
memories lane.
I don't want to live in the present.
No.
You know.
No.
It was good back then.
Sucks now.
Yeah.
It was good
Remember
years ago.
Trump?
We
Years
don't have
ago.
any of that good
Was-
stuff.
It was good back then, years ago.
Years ago. All those years ago.
Oh, yeah. George
Yeah.
Harrison.
George Harrison singing about John.
Lennon.
Yeah, remember Lennon when he used to run Russia?
Yeah.
Fucking crazy shit happened.
Remember the Lennon sisters? Used to be on Lawrence Welk.
God, love them. Remember we'd sing along with Mitch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a game. We should do this on stage somewhere.
Do what?
Where like you come up with something and then the next person
This is
jumps
good.
in like another tangent. We could call it tangents.
Tangent.
God, I'd hate to do that.
Terrible tangent.
We just watch the audience walking out. Goodbye.
No, we would go around with a microphone and see if they could also add to it.
I had to wear tangents. You
Tangent.
know?
Tangents.
We need more tangents.
Got to have the tangents.
Tonight on
Yeah, did you see
Tangents.
the list of comedians that are coming up next on Hell Gigs?
Yes.
Hell Gigs, this is when comedians do shows that go terribly wrong. Listen to this list of comedians coming up next.
Bill Burr, Susie Essman, Christina P., Nate Bargatze, Mick Foley, Burt Kreischer, Emma Willman, Carly Aquilino, Bobby Kelly, Brian Regan, Jessica Curson, Dana Gould, Rory Albanese, Lynn Koplitz, Rich Voss, Mark Norman, Jim Norton, Joe Mackey, Doug Benson, and Sam Morrill.
They're all going to be here.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah,
going to be
they're
here.
all gonna be
you're-
here in just
Make
moments.
a little room.
Okay. Daddy, make room for Daddy with Danny Thomas.
Oh, Danny Thomas. He started St. Jude's.
Yes,
Remember?
who
Hey,
played his daughter on the show? Angela Cartwright.
Angela
who
Cartwright.
was later on Lost in Space.
Right, but also the Cartwright family from Bonanza,
Bonanza.
right?
there you go.
Bonanza.
Right.
Right?
I used to like Bonanza.
Yeah, remember Hoss? Oh, my
Hoss.
God, Hoss, he was so big.
Dan Blocker.
Little Joe, the little brother.
Joe, yeah.
Who went on to be...
Oh, and that other TV show.
Yeah, what is it?
Oh, I didn't watch it.
Little House on the Prairie.
Come on.
No.
Yes,
Yes,
Little
yes,
Joe was Little
yes.
House on the Prairie.
Yes. I was thinking of Petticoat Junction.
Oh,
That's the
oh,
whole house
God.
in the prairie. Come on.
And remember the girls used to swim in the water tank?
They would, yeah.
Yeah, and you just
They
almost
used to throw
see their nipples.
They used to throw the towel over there.
Yeah, you almost see their nipples.
I gotta watch
Show
this
it! Show it!
Yeah, I got that got
That's
rapey. That got rapey. Today, everybody, go to Netflix and watch a special by Judah Friedlander. You're gonna love it.
Judah Friedlander, the America, the greatest country in the United States.
Oh, remember the United States? Remember when there was only 48 states?
Yeah.
That was best.
Yeah.
That's when we had something going. Everything fucked up when we added Alaska and Hawaii. What are they doing here? They don't even touch us.
Hawaii. I wish we could add the Cayman Islands. Right now, that's just a property.
I do. I like the
English
Cayman
property.
Islands. Yeah.
That's not. You ever been to Cayman Islands?
Cayman Islands. Remember how you used to go down there by plane, or you could go by boat?
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. You can't take a boat to an island.
Remember the Love Boat?
What is it, Chris?
I like the Love Boat. I like the Love Boat theme by Jack Jones.
Oh.
Yeah.
Remember when Paul Williams would be on the Love Boat?
Yeah. Who wasn't?
He, Paul Williams co-wrote that, right?
Love Boat?
Yeah, look it up, Chris, real quick.
Let's go out with that today.
We can't. We've got our own stuff.
Did you play Weird Science today?
Yeah, we did. We opened the show with
Weird
Weird
Science.
Science. Yeah. Remember
How about Dead Man's Party?
Oh, it's the Dead Man's Party. Oingo boingo.
He did write the lyrics to Love Boat theme song.
Who did?
Paul Williams.
Oh, the way you made it sound was Oingo boingo.
Confused.
You have to be careful with the E's when you're on the radio. You frustrated that your TV bill continues to change month to month. Dish heard you. And they changed it with the Dish 2-year price guarantee. New customers can get the channels they want at the same package price guaranteed for the next 2 years.
That means 2 years of the TV you love at the same monthly price guaranteed. No second-year price increase. No gotcha moments or unwelcome surprises. That's the Dish 2-year TV price guarantee because only Dish is tuned into you.
To learn more, call 1-844-CALL-DISH. 1-844-CALL-DISH. Go to dish.com. Or visit a local retailer near you. Requires credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Taxes and surcharges are not included. Other restrictions apply. For full details, 1-844-CALL-DISH. Dish, tuned into you.
20 different comedians will take you through their own personal hell. The Bennington Show presents Hell Gigs.
Hey, welcome to Hell Gigs. I'm Ron Bennington. There's Gail Bennington.
Yo.
And I am Ron Bennington. And if there's one thing I think that Gail and I have in common, that's hearing people talk about their embarrassing failures.
I feel kind of bad about it, but there is an enjoyment I get when I hear somebody tell me about the worst show they've ever done. Just living in that cringy moment is some of my favorite stories to talk to comics about.
And I also think it's great because you can know just how bad an audience can be. Like, people will say that the audience is always right, but somebody has left a Steve Martin or a Richard Pryor show, Robin Williams, and just said, that guy sucks. You know what I mean?
100%. This is an equalizer for all comics, whether you are an open mic comic or you're a headliner that everybody knows first name. Like, everybody has this experience.
And it can happen, and does happen, very early in the career, but it also can happen even after you're established. You can be doing some charity gig, and this happens all the time, and they're like, I'm not paying attention to Jerry Seinfeld because I'm talking to the other guy from sales. Hell Gigs, just to prove, we'll start this off, just to prove that this happens to great comedians. Here's the one and only Bill Burr, and he's talking about a hell gig that he did early in his career.
My favorite nooner I ever did, I always ended up being in Colorado. I was somewhere in Colorado, and I went up, and there was no stage. I did have a microphone, and nobody knew that there was going to be a show. And I went up there, and I got to do an hour. And I used to always just think, okay, what time is it? 1 o'clock, okay? At 2:05, I'm going to be in my Dodge Neon, just driving away from this place. It'll be like it never happened. And I went up there, and I just went into this zone, and I didn't give a shit. And I just started shitting on everybody in there. And I can't remember what I was talking about, but I totally believed whatever I was saying. I just felt like I had like razors flying out of my mouth. People just looking up from grilled cheese sandwiches. And I don't remember what the last thing I said. Something about this guy walked by. He had like on a 3-piece suit, cowboy hat, and boots. And I'm like, look at this fucking guy. Looks like he's trying to get a loan for a horse, right? Which, to this day, it bugs me that didn't get a laugh. And I was just shitting on everybody. I was shitting on the school. And I was saying how, it's a fucking ripoff. And that, I don't know what I said. And then, I was 20 minutes into my set. And the girl who booked it, sort of walks up to me, which is hilarious because there's no stage. And she just sort of walks up to me and hands me this note. And as I'm doing my, whatever the hell I'm talking about, it says, can you wrap it up in 5? And I was like, fuck, I'll wrap it up in 3, right? And then in the back of my head, I was like, oh, fuck, am I going to get paid? And I got off, and they gave the check, and they paid me, and they apologized, just saying, yeah, I think this was a bad idea. This just wasn't right. It's not you. And everything I ever wanted to hear, yeah, it isn't me. It isn't me. It's you guys. I came here to make people laugh, not to stand up here being humiliated for a fucking hour. Can you call all the other colleges and tell them what you learned?
Bill Burr talking about his own personal hell gig. Obviously, you can see Bill, his show, F is for Family, streaming now on Netflix, and his Twitter is at Bill Burr.
Yeah, I think especially the comics who, you think of as a heavy hitter or a tough guy or a take no shit kind of person, to see them in a position of weakness, because we all see people who are on stages in a position of power.
Yeah, but, you set out to do something and could be just the wrong situation. One of the things that can go wrong with you is when you try to do stand-up in a kind of a rock festival setting. People didn't come here for that. And with stand-up, open air doesn't work as well. You need a nice low ceiling. You need to be packed in here.
There are so many elements to what makes a great comedy club and what makes a great experience. And just one little thing could be off. And to know that could get into a comic's head is hilarious.
Here's one of the funniest comedians in the world, Bobby Kelly, talking about his own personal hell gig.
It was outside at a beer fest after a metal band in the rain in the afternoon next to a skydiving simulator. So every fucking 5 minutes, a jet engine would go off and you'd hear, funnels! And there'd just be, it was the worst gig of my life. It would rain intermittently. So it would rain. The kids would go under a tent that was probably a half a football field away, and then it would stop raining immediately, and they would come out of the tent to come watch me do comedy. So I would get them, it would rain, and then they'd go under a tent, and I'd have to stop every probably 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I did the hour, and the guy who drove me there was a big Jerry Seinfeld fan, huge, and he said to me, he goes, could you please, he was calling me Jerry the whole day. He's like, Jerry. I'm like, I'm Bob. He's like, I know, I just love Jerry. All day long. And he drove me there and he said, can you please just get me an autograph from Jerry? And I go, absolutely. And I went back and I just had met Jerry 2 nights before and I thought this would be a great story. He would love this hell gig and he would open up the show. One last episode called Hell Gig for me and Jerry to, he'd break me as a star. And he came downstairs and I came downstairs. He was on stage. As he walks off, there was a crowd of people flipping out and there's the whole downstairs at the cellar was packed, and he walks by, and I was like, hey, I got a good story for you. And he goes, he turns around. We made a bet. I forgot about that. We made a bet that I did 2 days before. And I go, you got your buck. And I go, but I got a story for you. And I held the dollar up. He goes, you want your buck back? And I was like, oh, what a dick. And he walked up 2 more stairs, and he turned around, and he looked at me. He goes, when you're done, come up, and we'll have some food. We'll have some food and we'll talk. And I was like, absolutely, dude. I'm going to do my set. I'll be right up. I got such a crazy story to tell you. I did this gig, college gig outside, skydiving. It was insane. I'll be right up. He goes, not you. He was talking to the lady next to me.
Oh, God.
Oh. So Robert Kelly not only had a hell gig, but then a hell celebrity encounter.
That's horrible.
With Jerry Seinfeld.
That's so cringy.
Not you. One of the funniest people alive. You know what, dude? Available on riotcast.com, on Twitter, at Robert Kelly. But he did set up those things like sometimes it's not you at all. It's the situation. The Doors, one of the greatest bands of all time. Everybody alive today go, oh, I wish I would have seen the Doors in their prime. They opened for Simon and Garfunkel, and people just stared at them.
Right.
They were not going to win over that audience, no matter how much they put into it.
Everything has to be right. All the circumstances have to be right. And there are certain settings that are not ripe for comedy.
And yet, sometimes those are the highest paying gigs that you can get. The corporate gig, when a corporation, somebody thinks, hey, at our big fall sales meeting, let's throw a bunch of cash at a comic and it'll all go great. And obviously none of these people have produced a show. They have no idea how to do it. And this was from Gail Meets Girls, another one of our favorite people.
This is Lynn Koplitz.
Jenny Craig booked me for a lot of money to do a private party for her daughter, who was turning like 40, and flew me to like San Bernardino or wherever the heck they live. And I was young. I had done stand-up 5 years. I was a baby comic, like I had an act, and I had done my half-hour special, but I wasn't like I am now. Like now I would have been like, Jenny, and no problem. I would have gotten another 15 out of her. I would have shook her down. Do you guys remember Dirty Dancing?
Yes.
That's what it was like. She had hired a juggler and a fire eater, and instead of having someone like take pictures, she had someone painting a painting of the people that were at the dining room table. And it was like a table with her 40-year-old daughter it was like a surprise luncheon, and there were like 50 of their friends. We were in like beautiful Southern California. All the curtains were drawn because they all had so much plastic surgery. They wanted to be in like dark light. So it's like 2:00 in the afternoon with like, it was like a vampire luncheon. And you know, they didn't all have the best sense of humor. The daughter did. The daughter was great. Thank God. That's what made it okay. And Jenny was great, but like a lot of the friends were just very pulled, unhappy women. And
you're just standing in the middle of this.
You're brought in. The acts were brought in like one at a time, and we were all in like a holding room with like remnants of the lunch they were eating. Like we had like a version of it. It was like Dirty Dancing. Like we were the hired help. We were in the back room. And at the end, I felt bad for the jugglers and stuff because I was brought out, and the daughter wanted to meet me, and I came back out and met her and hung out with them. And I didn't feel bad for not being as funny because I thought, well, I'm giving them an extra half hour of me. And then at the time, I was a different confidence than I am now. You know, I had more hope in my confidence. Now my confidence is just I can do it. What do you need? You got money? I can do it. Now it's like an old hooker's confidence, not like not like a hopeful young actress confidence. It's more like an old whore that knows. Just show me where the guy is.
Just an old whore, an old pro, Lynn Complitz. See her special, Hormonal Beast. That's available now on Netflix. She's also at Funny Lynn on Twitter, but incredibly cringy but hilarious story.
Yeah, I love that I just kind of picture it as some sort of a weird Eyes Wide Shut moment where she walks in like, what is this party? What am I hired to do?
And also you see the difference between men and women because she felt bad for the jugglers. And no guy is ever going to feel bad for the jugglers. This is Hell Gigs, some of the greatest comedians in the world talking about Hell Gigs. Our next person on Hell Gigs has had 5 straight #1 comedy albums on iTunes. And I know that because he's told me that time and time again. This is the great Rich Voss.
Here's a nightmare. I was working years ago when I first started. Maybe I was about 5 years in. I was doing a bachelor party. It was in a bar, behind the bar in some little dirty room. I walk in, maybe, 10 guys, 8 guys, and there's a stripper completely naked, and she takes the groom-to-be's eyeglasses off and pulls down her lips, I guess you could call them lips, and ties his glasses with her pussy lips, ties his glasses. And now our comic. I had to follow that.
I don't see the problem. Is it just me?
You think that's a perfectly fine opener?
I think it's like going on after Tom Hanks on The Tonight Show. You know, the place is already in a good mood. Well, some people see that as a hell gig. These are some of my favorite cringy stories, and the fact that it happens to everybody makes it even better. By the way, Rich would want me to let you know he's at Rich Voss on Twitter, and he's a headliner. Now, this next one, this comes out of an Unmasked episode, Gail.
This is Dana Gould.
I was doing a show somewhere in the East Bay of Northern California, Hayward or someplace. I was on stage at this club that had a comedy night. And as the old saying goes, when the sign out front says comedy night, NITE, illiteracy will be the theme of your evening. The crowd was so aggressively not paying attention to me. It was quite literally like just chaos. It was like performing in the airport the night before Thanksgiving. It was just like nobody was paying any attention to me. Everybody was moving. So finally I said very loudly into the microphone, if I can get a female volunteer from the audience and 2 shots of tequila, I have something to do that I think you'll really like to see. And that galvanized everybody. So a woman came up on the stage and sat down. I got 2 shots from the waitress, and now I had all eyes on me. And I said, I'll be right back. And I went off stage, went into the green room, walked out the back door, got into my car, and drove home.
Dana Gold, he somehow goes out of the way and saves a little something for himself. Pranks everybody who's there.
You know what I think the thing about the hell gig stories that I love so much is that with any entertainment, it's bigger than life and everybody wants to break into showbiz. But then there's still this thing that it's just like, no, it's smaller than life. It's still the sideshow. You can't deny that it's just a guy on a stage and an audience just going, entertain me.
Dana Gold at Dana Gold on Twitter. Some of these people, we talked about this on Masked or the Bennington Show or Gail Meets Girls, and some people we just interviewed for this special. Hell gigs, everybody's had them. Now here is such an intimidating performer. I can't imagine anything throwing her. You know her from Curb Your Enthusiasm. This is Susie Essman.
Worst hell gig I ever did was early in my career, where I was hired to do a bar mitzvah of all things. And I'm standing on stage in the bar mitzvah, and these bratty fucking little kids start throwing hard candies at me while I'm on stage. And I remember I just got so pissed off and I just walked off, and I was probably getting paid like, $60 for the whole gig, which was a lot of money for me at the time. But these little brats weren't going to be throwing candy at me.
Now, who would think it's a bar mitzvah, 13-year-old boys? Let's bring a woman in to do observational comedy.
I have no idea. Any comedy that happens already in a party situation, that seems like you're setting yourself up for failure. But for children? Armed with hard candies?
I understand that they think they're too big for a clown, but you're still not ready for an edgy comedian to come out here. At Susie Essman, you could tweet at any of these people and let them know that you've heard their pain and embarrassment and frustration on hell gigs. The next comedian, again, this is a comic that would strike fear into a lot of people, and yet he's been on the other side of this.
This is Jim Norton.
For me, I think the most memorable hell gig, I was probably a year and a half, 2 years into comedy, so it's around 1992. One of my comedy heroes at that time was the Reverend Bob Levy. Bobby was a local headliner who was fiercely funny and vicious and off the cuff. And I really looked up to Bob Levy. So the first time we ever worked together on a gig, he was the host at Rascals South in the main room. And I had never done the main room. And Bobby went up and destroyed for 15 minutes. And he was hosting and bringing on some younger talent. And I was one of the guys he brought up. So I went on stage. I was so excited to be working with him in probably a 3/4 filled room. It was probably 200 people. And I fucking bombed. I bombed so badly. I remember being shocked that I was getting no laughs. Like nobody was laughing. And I was about 3 minutes into it. And I stopped. And I said to the audience, am I too dirty? And one guy just went, get new jokes or get a new act. That was what he said, get a new act, which is a horrible heckle. But at that time, I had no ability to deal with that. So I was just like, oh, okay, I'm sorry I wasted your time, everybody. And I just walked off stage. And I always remembered Bob Levy, and I wrote about this in Happy Endings. I always loved Bob for this because he went on, and Bob would do a joke. It's maybe in 1990, 91, where he would go, you ever been to a funeral besides tonight? And then he would do the joke. But I remember he did the setup. He went, you ever been to a funeral? And he just did the joke. And he didn't say beside tonight. And I knew in that moment that he was not saying that because I had just bombed. So he was trying to not rub it in my face. I always loved him for removing that stupid line. I knew he was doing that as a favor so it wouldn't be humiliating. But I cried on the way home from that gig. I remember driving. I was thinking of committing suicide. And I was like, I'm a failure. Comedy is not going to work for me. It was a confirmation that this had been a stupid dream, and I was shit, and I was destined. I called Ward Magnuson, who ran Rascals, and I'm like, I can't do comedy anymore. And he was like, look, man, it's just a bad night. You got to do a little soul searching, and I'm sure you'll want to get back up. And the next night, I believe, was when Desert Storm happened. I was like, I'm going to go on stage. But I think that was when we actually went to war with Iraq the first time. So whatever that date was, the night before that, was when I bombed very badly. And then the clubs didn't do shows for 2 or 3 days because CNN, we were watching Wolf Blitzer standing there, fucking bombs dropping behind him. So that was what the whole country was doing. So that's it. That's my bomb story, and it changed my career because I said it's never going to hurt that bad again, and it didn't.
Am I too dirty? That is so on Jim Norton, right?
I can't believe it.
Yeah. And again, like, whatever you think about Jim as this tough, edgy comedian, there's this really sensitive person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that shit hurts. When he said he was crying on the way home.
I know. And having said that, these are my favorite stories. I wish that I would have stopped laughing while he said he was crying and felt suicidal. I'm still sitting here like, oh, it's amazing.
I think it's because it's a shared thing. You know what I mean?
100%. I think anybody who's ever thought about doing stand-up, anybody who's ever thought about performing in any way, it's kind of great to hear these stories because you go, oh man, that's my worst fear. What you experienced is my worst fear.
Jim Norton and Sam Roberts, that airs weekdays, 8 a.m. on Faction Talk 103 right here on Sirius XM. And then you could also hear the Chip Chipperson podcast that's available on riotcast.com. His Twitter is at Jim Norton. Now, when you do Gail Meets Girls, it always seems to me that the women are even more vulnerable in some of these bad nights.
Yes, because there's just a situation of they already feel weird being on the road, being in a circumstance where somebody else has the power. So this is a very unifying experience when they both have that shared horrible hell gig. This is Emma Willman and Carly Aquilino on Gail Meets Girls.
We did a show that was outside, and there was no sound. The sound was just going out into an abyss.
Yeah,
it was just,
and it was like freshman orientation. Nobody was paying attention. There was like a taco stand and like a guy giving away T-shirts right in front of the stage and a fucking smoke machine.
They wanted her to do 45 minutes.
They wanted me to do an hour.
They wanted her to do an hour. I was supposed to do 20, 25, and then there was a host who was supposed to do a certain amount of time. So these kids, like, it should have been a much quicker show.
They were sitting on the grass. Like, it was just so weird.
I burned through all my material as so fucking fast at that because there was no feedback from the
you
audience.
Couldn't hear, and there was a smoke machine,
and the kids are just sitting there. And then to do an hour,
hour, I did all my material. I did like 45 minutes of material in like 8 minutes.
And then what you do
is
a Q&A.
I was like, all right, Q&A time. And then I did a Q&A, and everybody was like, nobody even asked me any questions. They were like, what are you talking about? I was like, that's not a question. Don't do that. And then I like brought Emma back up.
I'll do a Q&A.
I'm like, everybody up here,
give it up for Emma.
I like brought up Emma. I brought up Matt. I was like, let's play a game. Like I was like, get me the fuck out of here, because it's so funny. They picked us up. We get dropped off at the school. They pick us up in a golf cart, which is always a red flag. They're always picking you up on a golf cart. So I'm like, we're like, our feet are dangling at the back of this golf cart. We're like, oh my God.
And there's a giant
and we
field.
drive past this field that has like a stage in it. And I'm like,
oh no.
I looked at her. I'm like, this isn't where the show is. And she's like, no, they definitely would have told us. This is like a nightmare gig if that's where the show is. She's like, your agent would have told us, like, whatever.
There would have been something like you need to have a sound check or take a mental health day before or after.
You
some
have
heads
to
up.
tell someone when they're performing outside. If
In
you're
a
not
field.
a musician, like, we're comedians. We need a fucking
Roof.
ceiling.
You need a bubble.
Yeah, we need a bubble.
For laughs to bounce
Sound.
out of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember we asked the girl, I'm like, where's the show? She's like, right there. Points to the middle
To
of
the
the
field.
field of dreams.
Oh boy.
The field of nightmares.
Field of Dreams.
Emma Willman and Carly Aquilina. Here's what I really love about their story is you got to do your time to get paid. So there's no contract that says you have to get X amount of laughs, but there always is you have to do X amount of times.
Yes.
So let's bring Emma back up. Who wants to play a game? Who has a question?
Maybe Emma's going to do some Q&A.
Yeah.
What? It's so funny.
But you are not going to make this worth worse by not going home with money.
And
you know what I mean?
I'm going to tell you, when I was in college, I actually have booked comedians to do outdoor shows. I feel terrible. When I heard this story, I'm like, oh my God, I'm part of a reason that somebody had a hell gig.
But
somebody had to like follow a band and perform outside for college kids. It's a nightmare.
But you see, these college kids, they have no idea how a show works, but they do have thousands and thousands of dollars. So people will like, hey, I'm doing a college tour, knowing that they could get the next few months of their lease paid for. At Carly Aquilina, on Twitter.
And at Emma Willman on Twitter.
Now, again, here is another comedian who's had an amazing career, actually became the producer of the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. So you're thinking, well, you've got to be one of the funniest people in the history of the planet to have that gig. I guess your entire life has just went great. This is Rory Albanese.
My hell gig has to be really early on in my stand-up career, about 23 years old, and Lewis Black, who worked with me at The Daily Show, asked me to open for him. He was still doing clubs at the time, so we went down to the Stress Factory in New Brunswick, New Jersey, which is an amazing club, but it is not a comedy club for rookies, particularly 23-year-olds from New York City. And I get on stage as his opener, and Lewis had never seen me do stand-up before, so I was really trying to impress him. And I get on stage in Jersey in this, like, blue-collar town in front of these blue-collar people, and I'm like, hey, guys, so you ever take the A train late at night? And I'm doing all these New York City jokes that just are tanking so hard. It felt like that scene in Roadhouse. I felt like people were I needed chicken wire in front of the stage so beer bottles wouldn't hit me in the head. And there's just, like, bikers in the crowd like, we should kill this guy. It was the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. Mouth got pacey. I come off stage after like 15 minutes on there, and I go to the green room, and I'm like shaking, like, oh my God, Lewis Black is just going to kill me. And he's in the green room just like, I knew you were going to bomb. That's why I brought you here. And the hell part of it was that I had to do it again right afterwards. I just had to watch him kill, take a little break, have a drink of water, eat a little dinner, and go back on stage knowing I was going to bomb the next time. And I did all weekend. But then years later, I went back to the Stress Factory and I redeemed myself.
That is Rory Albanese, at Rory Albanese on Twitter. I love the premise that he brought in, because you always think, oh, this is great. I'm going to be opening for this big act, whether it's a singer or a comedian. And, it's in a beautiful theater. But you don't realize they all came here just to see that other person.
Absolutely.
Not you.
You know how you feel about the opening band?
Yes, you don't want to see an opening band. You don't want to see an opening act, particularly one who's 23 years old.
I love also that he says that he has to the worst part about it is that he has to get up there and do it again. And that's the unique thing about all these stories. All these people have experienced this and then have the balls to get back on stage and do it again and know that something like that could happen to you again.
It's like if you were in a horrific car wreck, the way you feel riding home from the hospital. Like, is this going to happen again? And you got to get past that, of course. Now, here's a guy that I never see anything kind of shake him up at all. So I can't wait to hear his hell gig. This is Bert Kreischer.
It was me, Jim Florentine, and Bobby Kelly. They fly us to do Minnesota Vikings opening day banquet. So it's like the weekend before the game, or the Thursday before the game, and all the boosters show up. We get there. I just meet Florentine this week. This is the first time I've ever met him. I know Bobby. We're in the green room, and it's packed. It's like, I'd say probably 2,500 people. Every player is sitting at a table with all the boosters. All the coaches are there. It is massive. It's in a huge arena. And Bobby and Florentine go, yo, you've been doing it the shortest. Why don't you go up and host? Do like 10 minutes tight, bring up Jim, do another 10 minutes in between them, bring up Bobby, and that'll be the show. And I'm like, great. His favorite nations, we're all getting paid the same. I'm like, all right. Coach comes back. Coach Tice comes back. He's like, hey, here's the only gig. Don't make fun of any of the players. Don't bring up any of the players who just get uncomfortable. I know there are a lot of jokes, but, I don't want that back and forth. Just do your acts. And we're like, no problem, Zach. This is going to be a fucking great gig. Guy in the big purple outfit comes back and he's like, "Hey, you guys ready? You guys ready?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're ready." Jim and Bobby are like, "Go out, man, kill it." So the guy in the big purple outfit goes out and he's like, "All right. We got some great words from Donovan McNabb." No, I think it was Donovan. No, it wasn't Donovan McNabb. It was the other black quarterback at the time, whatever his name was. Randy Moss is up here talking to you guys. You guys got to hear from Coach Tice. This is gonna be a great season. Are you guys ready for a great season? They're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "How about we start some great season off with some great stand-up comedy? Who wants to hear some great stand-up comedy?" And everyone's going nuts. And he goes, "I can't hear you. Are you ready to hear some stand-up comedy?" And they're like, "Yeah." He goes, "Are the players ready to hear some stand-up comedy?" And they're like, "Yeah." "How about you boosters? Are you boosters ready to hear some stand-up comedy?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm sitting with Bobby and Jim going, "This is fucking going to be insane." Like fucking 2,500 people out there are fucking chomping at the bit. And he goes, "All right. Before I bring your first comic up, I'm going to dismiss all the players. They're going to be in the lobby signing autographs. So if you'd like an autograph, stand up now, head on out to the lobby, and they'll be doing all that. So put your hands together for Bert Kreischer." Literally, as I walk on stage, 2,500 people stand up and exit the room. It is like the Titanic. Like there has been a natural disaster and they're going to safety because everyone wants an autograph from one of these guys. And immediately I start going, "Fuck Randy Moss." "Fuck, where you at, Randy Moss? I'll fight you on stage. Someone stay in here." The only person that stayed in the room was their field goal kicker. I forget who it is. Bobby Kelly would know the guy's name because he ended up moving to the front table and watching the whole show. We did a whole show for a field goal kicker and his fucking girlfriend. And then he was like, "Hey, you guys want to go out to a bar after this?" I was like, "Yeah." So we got hammered at some bar in Minneapolis that I've actually been to 4 times now, oddly enough. Every time I go, "Hey, I've been to this bar. I was here with that field goal kicker."
It ended on a strange note, but that is about as funny as it gets, right?
It's so hilarious. Just the overhype leading up to it. And
I'm thinking you're going to do one of the greatest gigs of your life.
Dude, this is going to be fucking insane. We're going to kill.
It's Hell Gigs with Ron and Gail Bennington. That was at Bert Kreischer on Twitter, Bert Kreischer, which goes to show you, I mean, they actually had a great show lined up with Bert, Florentine, Kelly. You know, for them to fly them in, they were getting good money, and then got the entire audience to walk out right as they were going on.
I like that we've also heard from Robert Kelly, his Hell Gig. So this is just one
of many.
One of many.
One of many. Horrifying. Christina P., we love her. She's got a new special out called Mother Superior. That's available on Netflix now. Let's hear Christina P. on Hell Gigs.
I was a brand new feature act. It was the first time I'd ever featured. I'd lied and said I had 30 whole minutes. I maybe had 20. It was a beautiful tour of the Northwest, and it was like biker bars and general garbage dumps. I did an old Ku Klux Klan town, and I know this because I was speaking to the chef before the show, who was a black guy, and he told me that this was a former Klan town, and I was like, "Why are you here?" And he goes, "Well, I live 40 miles away. I just drive here for work and I leave." So here I am thinking I'm going to be this clever, hip comedian. I go up in front of this really rough crowd. I mean, it is a shit dive bar, and there's those crazy machines that light up and dartboards, and it's rough. It's like the Blues Brothers chicken wire in front of the stage type of place. And so I go up there and I think I'm going to be really clever, and my opening line to these people is, "Hey, what do you guys like to do for fun around here besides drag minorities behind your trucks?" At that point, a beer bottle flew to the stage. It hit my foot, not my head, thankfully. And the headliner who I was traveling with was smart enough to promptly drag my ass off stage. I had gotten exactly one joke out my first time featuring, and that was it. And the headliner took over and thankfully saved the set. But that was it. And that kept me coming back for more. The thrill of the high of success.
God, that is funny and really frightening.
That is so scary. The incredibly funny Christina P. At Christina P. on Twitter.
It is Hell Gigs. Some of them are just frightening because, failing in public is difficult. But other ones, you could see that violence can break out at any time.
There was a physical threat, but it was a good opening line. I mean, surprised it didn't kill.
Yeah, if I would have been there, I probably would have went wild, and I would have probably yelled, "Give her a chance." Now, here is a wrestler, one of the most hardcore wrestlers of all time, who now does some stand-up comedy, and you would not think this kind of failure would bother him, but obviously it does. This is the one and only Mick Foley.
I have been doing one-man shows / stand-up comedy for 7 years, and after 2 years, I'd more or less given up on it. Realized there were much funnier people than me out there, but I was attending a fundraiser for the Wounded Warriors at the Gotham Comedy Club and mentioned that I used to do comedy, so if they wanted me to do a set, I could. And what I didn't know is I'd be following people like Amy Schumer and Judah Friedlander, and people have been working hard on their, on their material. Here's a guy, I haven't done it in a long time, I've abandoned it. And besides that, it seems to me like a lot of the guys up there are talking about what I wanted to talk about, which was genitalia. Like, that's where everyone gravitates. Now it's almost like a penis-free show. Like when I talk wrestling, I gave up on that stuff. So instead of going out there and talking about stuff I had in mind, I decided I would freeform like it was a wrestling promo. And it's really difficult to freeform when people have just seen great comics doing tight sets. And let's just say it did not go well. The only line of applause I got was when I looked out of the crowd and I said, if I was in a pool, I'd ask for a life preserver because I am drowning up here. And I walked off stage and I knew I would never perform again. And if Judah Friedlander hadn't been there to head me off of the pass, I never would have. He went, dude, it's not as bad as you thought. I said, Judah, it was awful. And he said, dude, you just don't know. Like, you have a benefit. Like, people are actually listening to you. Like if anyone else went 4 minutes without a single laugh, they'd be dead. But people listen to you. And then he looked me in the eye and goes, dude, don't get me wrong. You have to find a way to make this stuff funny. But then he told me that I had something. And without Judah Friedlander there to talk me off the cliff, I never would have gone on stage again. That's my hell gig.
Mick Foley, Dude Love, Mankind, Cactus Jack, and he needs Judah Friedlander to give him a pep talk because hell gig went so bad.
That's his Hell in the Cell gig.
Yes. I saw that guy fall like 4 floors onto nails, and this guy like Judah Friedlander has to be there like, come on, buddy. By the way, could you think of a more surreal conversation?
No, I thought of that immediately. I go, I want to live in a world where I could just like walk up and Mick Foley and Judah Friedlander are talking and hanging out.
Well, that world would be called Mad Magazine because it should not exist on Earth. He is at Real Mick Foley on Twitter. This is Hell Gigs. Hell Gigs, talking to some of the funniest people about some of the worst moments in their life. The next one is an incredibly funny young man whose career has blown up in about the last year and 2 years. It's Mark Norman.
Hey, Mark Norman here. Hell gigs. I've had a million. Most of my gigs are actually pretty rough. But one time I did a college in Florida, and it was apparently an all-black college, which is fine. But I showed up, and the girl was like, yeah, it's going to be a bit of an urban show. And I was like, okay. And she's like, it's very diverse. And I looked around. It was all black. There was no I was the diversity. So this rap group was on. They're like twirling shirts around going, hey, kill Whitey, yeah. And I'm like, all right. Then they're like, up next, comedian Mark Norman. So I go up, and I'm supposed to do an hour. And right as I grab the microphone, some guy goes, hey, look at this fag. And I was in such a New York state of mind, I guess, that I yelled out, geez, man, what if I was actually gay? And he goes, no, you are. And it got like a huge applause break, and the place went nuts. And I had to do, 58 minutes after that to sweaty silence. So that was a tough one. Thank you. Hell gigs. There's more to come. I hate myself.
Hell gigs.
More to come.
I one of my favorite parts of that with him going, hey, what if I was, not knowing that is still a negative stereotype in some places in this country.
Absolutely. But you know what? This is I think this is always my favorite twist in when somebody tells me a Hell Gig story is then he says, and then I go 58 minutes after. Like,
Yes.
you know, you have a whole hour. It's like you've tripped on your way up, and now how are you going to do an hour?
And why do they ever think someone should do an hour? It's always, they should say, look, 15 minutes, and if it's going great, keep going.
Yeah.
But why are we locking in an hour of uncomfortability? I would just write a contract to say, go till it doesn't feel like it's working anymore. Then we'll have you off.
And then run off the stage immediately.
Do bow and run off the stage. That's at Mark Norm. At Mark Norm. Now, this is this next person talking about their Hell Gig. How could someone not like him?
It doesn't make any sense. The world should love Joe Mackey.
One of my worst Hell Gigs was at Caroline's Comedy Club. I did a show called Ed Lover's Comedy Showcase. And it was supposed to start at midnight, but the show before it went super long, so we ended up starting at about 2 a.m., which really upset the sellout crowd. And it just wasn't my type of crowd. The MC was actually Ed Lover from Yo MTV Raps. And I went up first on the show, and his last crowd work was asking a woman how old she was. And she said 54. And he replied, I would fuck the Social Security right out of you. And it got a huge laugh. Then he brought me up, and I said, if you're 54 and getting Social Security, it's probably because you're widowed or on disability. And no one got it. No one laughed. And I proceeded to bomb for the next 5 minutes. It was supposed to be a 15-minute set. They started playing rap music at 6 minutes in to get me off the stage. And it was the first time I was ever happy to be interrupted by rap music. And then Ed Lover, who was really nice about it, brought me off stage, and he told the crowd, this is really hard to do, everybody, which is the kiss of death. It means that, like, this guy's trying his best, everyone. Let's all get behind him. So that was the worst gig I've ever had.
Oh my God.
Why would it be the worst night? And then it's like, what are your best stories? Because that story is hilarious. First of all, I agree. His comeback, his joke was funny as hell.
I just like that. How could you bomb on a widowed joke?
Yes.
I don't know, but that killed me.
He's also really correct that you can't have a great show and then the host would say, folks, this is a really hard thing to try.
He's doing his best.
He's doing everything he can. No one ever says that after a positive night.
No.
At Joe Mackey on Twitter. And he has an incredibly good friend that they're very difficult with each other, and that's Sam Morril. And I think this was Sam talking about this on the Bennington show, right?
Yes, it was.
It's Sam Morril and his Hell Gig.
I did a benefit last night, or not a benefit, but like it's for like Coca-Cola and the New York Rangers. I did it at Trump Golf Course in like Westchester, and coming in, it was like that classic thing where the owner of the golf club was like, I love comedy. Like, I really get comedy. And I'm like, ooh, this is going to go badly. You could just sniff out a bomb.
Yeah.
You know, Kenny Albert's there. Al Troutwig is there. And it felt like Anchorman. You
Yeah.
know, it's just like all the commentators just like chatting, and they were cool. And then, and Kenny Albert was like, you know, I this is gonna be a tough room. Like, I just hope you can handle it. He's doing what he can, you know, and he kind of gives me a nice intro. And I just see him in the corner, just like, what can you do? As I'm like mid bomb, like maybe I shouldn't have told this joke. Maybe I shouldn't have told that joke. And it was like that classic thing where like everyone after the show is like, rough crowd. I'm like,
Yes.
it was you. It was
Yes,
all of
you're in
you.
the crowd.
It could have gone worse.
Yeah.
But then like Adam Graves is there from the Rangers, and I loved him growing up. So Graves came over, and he's like, I could tell he's like knew that one didn't go great, but he's trying to be nice. And he's like, yeah, man, you really, I really like humor. And I was like, ooh.
I like humor.
That's as general as I'm going to make this. Now, this is Sam. Once he has this great big TV deal, it still doesn't go away.
No, I think that these are the kind of things that haunt you later. They keep you up at night. They just crawl under your skin. That's why they're the best stories ever.
This is Hell Gigs. Comedians doing nights that just did not go the way they want it. Maybe some of the worst moments of their lives. This next comic is hysterical, has an unbelievable following. So how would Doug Benson ever end up having a Hell Gig?
One time that really stands out, I was a winner of a comedy contest sponsored by Virgin Airlines. And my prize was a trip to London on Virgin. And then when I got there, part of my prize was I got to perform 3 times at the Comedy Store in London. The first 2 sets went great, so I, got pretty cocky. And then in a late night show, my set started with just a lot of drunken heckling, and it didn't stop the entire time. Like, it was just the entire audience screaming shit at me. I still did my time. For whatever reason, I thought I couldn't leave the stage early. So it was just me screaming back at these people. And then the host of the show that night after it was over said that he hadn't seen such a thick-skinned American in a long time, which, I took as a compliment. But then I got on the plane to come home, and another aspect of my prize was that they wanted me to perform stand-up comedy on the plane. And when I got there, they said, I thought I'd just say some jokes over the same system that they make announcements on the flight. But instead they're like, no, we can't do that. We can't really have comedy over the PA. So they handed me a microphone, like a Mr. Microphone, like one of those toy microphones that was attached to a little speaker. And I had to walk around the plane and just go up to people and kind of do almost like close-up magic, but with jokes. And I had to just tell people jokes face to face. But nobody expected a comedian to be on the plane, and nobody wanted it. Most of the people on the plane, I even had some pictures taken of this, had sleep masks on. So, I couldn't talk to the people that were sleeping. And so I just sort of wandered around and did my best to try to tell people jokes, and it felt extremely sad and pathetic, and was certainly the most unusual Hell Gig I've had.
This is amazing because he won a contest to have this experience.
This is his prize.
Yes.
There's 2 elements of this story that I love. One, I always love stories of trying to do comedy to people who don't want to hear comedy,
Right.
which is always funny. And then 2, just this. He could have just said, no, I'm not going to do this. This
Right.
isn't a thing. Nobody
Yes.
wants this. I don't want this. You don't want this. Why does this need to happen? But he goes, yes, I will do
Yes.
this. And he's walking around with his mic on the plane. It's so funny.
Dude, I don't even want the stewardess to say stuff to me on a plane.
No,
you know what I mean? I want
of
quiet
course
time.
not.
When I'm dozing and they're like, hey, did you want something for lunch? I'm like, what are you doing? If a guy came up and just started to try to amuse me.
Crowd work me on a plane?
Oh.
A foot away from my face?
God, he's a great storyteller. At Doug Benson. Now, this is one that I heard on Gail Meets Girls, and I'm not making this up. I was rolling listening to this. Gail, you were interviewing, in my opinion, one of the funniest people working today, Jessica Kirson.
The incredibly funny Jessica Kirson. She is so funny, and she tells these stories about doing these gigs for people in their homes. These are private parties that she will take these jobs in people's living rooms, and it makes for a perfect Hell Gig.
One time I did a show. I'll never forget. The first one I ever did was in Jersey. I had been doing comedy a year. I was horrible. And they're like, it's all Israelis and they want you to come to Jersey. And I charged them $200. And I told Judy Gold, and she's like, are you fucking crazy? She was screaming at me that I charged $200. She's like, the harder the gig is, the more you charge.
Right.
I bombed so bad. I had just all Israeli people sitting around me in chairs, and they were just staring.
Did they feed you? I mean, did they treat you like a guest?
Oh, I bring containers. I bring.
Oh my God.
They give you so much food. First of all, I have a whole way I do it now. They always want you to come an hour early and hang out. I'm like, that's not happening. I am not talking to anyone. So now I have a lot of boundaries. So I go I sit in the car. They know I'm in the car, and I need to know exactly when they're going to introduce.
I
And they're
am
always
so
and this-
fascinated.
Yeah, and
by
this is always the intro.
So we decided to have entertainment. Hopefully it'll be funny. We don't know. So Sylvia saw her at a JCC in January, and you know, we'll see how it goes. She's in the back. Everyone look. There's Jessica. She's waiting to... Did you get something to eat? Did you get something? All right. Well, try to enjoy yourselves. We are paying her, so hopefully it'll go okay. Please welcome Jennifer Carson.
So funny.
Jessica Curson. You can follow her on Twitter at Jessica Curson. So hilarious. I love the terrible intro. Just a terrible
intro. But what does she expect? She's sitting in a car walking into someone's living room. No one could make this work.
That's what I say to her. Why do you continue to do this? Money. What money? Why not? This is my job. But
there is something in her, though. I've seen her perform to all different crowds, and she just... I mean, if it's going great, she'll act like it's bad and turn around and do stuff. But if it's not going so great, her confidence builds. It's insane to see her.
She's honestly a genius. She's so funny.
Now, one of the hottest young comedians. He's a regular on the Tonight Show, headliner all over the country, has a half hour that's part of the stand-up streaming on Netflix right now. And we just read that he got a big pilot for one of the big networks, on network television, Nate Bargatze. He's one of the best joke writers out there. So how the hell would Nate ever end up on Hell Gigs?
It was a benefit in Phoenix. It's a very cool event that I've done a bunch, but it can be very long. So they always do an auction in the middle of it. The show can be 3 hours. Some people are there. They don't know they're there for an auction or a benefit. They could be there to see someone else. So Jeff Foxworthy was headlining it. We're all going up and doing like 6 minutes. So they do first 7 acts go up, and then they do an auction in the middle. So the first part went great, not too long, maybe 40 minutes, an hour, first part. The auction comes, and you're just like, you want it to be quick, because I'm the first one going out in the second group. So they start doing the auction. The auction takes like a straight hour. So now the show's 2 hours long, and then people are getting pretty like, all right, we want to just see the show. Then the guys, they're giving a car away. The guys that kind of sponsored this thing, they're veterans. So it's a very, very good cause. It's awesome. So these guys come out, and they're like, maybe we want to go out and say something. They're either going to do 30 seconds or they're going to talk for 40 minutes. And they talked for 40 minutes, just rambling, saying what they're doing, which is something very nice. At this point, you got to keep it moving. We're like 2.5 hours in, and we still have like 6 comics plus Jeff Foxworthy's headlining. Then they're like, we got a surprise. They bring a guy out. He's a veteran. His name is Nate as well. He has no legs. His legs got blown off. He's got prosthetics, so they give him a car. His name's my name. Everybody's crying. I'm crying. Like, it's a standing ovation. From that, they bring me out and go, all right, and we're going to keep the show moving. Please welcome Nate Bargatze. And then I have to walk out. I have to pass them as I walk by them. No one wants the show. No one cares. I only have like 6 minutes. Like, you're doing like just a short set, and I just like eat it for 6 minutes, because Nate had to walk out with 2 good legs right after this guy that's a real hero. It was like a gig that's like almost like you just get off and you just hope no one even remembers you were there.
At Nate Bargatze on Twitter, truly one of the funniest people today, and made that in like an amazing story.
It's such an awesome story. And there's a circumstance you never want to follow something that doesn't emotionally match up with comedy. Just the fact that everyone was crying leading up to it. Like, who could laugh at a moment like this?
It really does. Like, if you don't want to do comedy in an operating room or at a funeral.
Because I think the part of it is also you don't want to shed light on, well, this is a strange way to make money that you do.
You also don't want to end up good at doing comedy at weird places, or else you will end up working in an airport terminal or something. This is Hell Gigs, and about to go into the last person on the show, who many people consider the finest comedian working today, and that's Brian Regan. He's got a new special, Nunchucks and Flamethrowers. That's going to be available on Netflix Tuesday, November 21st. He's at Brian Regan Comic on Twitter. Brian Regan talks about his hell gig.
I was on a corporate show one time, and it wasn't going very well. It was up in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, and there was a window next to the stage. I did a joke, no laugh, and I heard a cricket. I swear, a cricket, like an actual literal cricket. And I'm like, that's the proverbial... I did so bad I heard crickets, and I'm hearing crickets. And I said to the audience, I said, did you guys hear that? And they went, yeah. I went, nobody's supposed to hear that during a comedy show. That was the first laugh I got, thanks to Jiminy Cricket.
That was at Caroline's during an Unmasked, and it's one of my favorite hell gig stories of all time. And all these comedians that were in hell gigs, we salute you. They were just amazing. Bill Burr, Bobby Kelly, Lynn Koplitz,
Rich Voss, Dana Gould, Susie Essman, Jim Norton,
Emma Willman, Carly Aquilina, Rory Albanese, Bert Kreischer, Christina P.,
Mick Foley, Mark Norman, Joe Mackey, Sam Morrill,
Doug Benson, Jessica Curson, Nate Bargatze, and of course, Brian Regan. We salute you guys. And this has been, with Ron and Gail Bennington, Hell Gigs.